divided. What does that mean?
That's what
Untie?
it says.
It doesn't say untie. It says united.
United.
Unite. The
Unite.
device.
Or, yeah,
Neither one of
united
you got it.
divide.
You both failed.
And I built it.
This was a test, and you both failed.
Yeah, I can't read.
We're cooking now.
We are
right.
cooking.
How you doing, Chad?
Hey, good, Doc. How are you?
Oh, pretty good.
Trav's trying out some new technology today, so if things go awry, we're just going to throw them out the window.
So far, it's working.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty happy.
Yeah,
Well, for everyone who saw me jumping around the last time we did it, I've got new earphones, so they don't hurt my head.
Roy was nerping out on his headphones last week.
Oh God, yeah.
So welcome to daylight savings time. We're actually, I don't know how the
There's
studio,
some sunlight.
if the studio will appear different. It's about the same time of the day we normally start, but we've got daylight now, so it's kind of nice. Get to you guys show up and it's still light outside. We got so many things that we can cover today. Just kind of recap. We didn't meet last week, I don't think, did we?
No.
So I've been married to an attorney for almost 25 years. This year will be our 25th anniversary, and it never fails. Like, I have people ask me all the time, like, I kind of wanted to talk to your wife, but what do you think of blah, 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 blah? And they'll ask me a legal question. And I'm like, I'm not an attorney.
Yeah.
I mean, I can look.
I sleep with one.
I always swing it. I always say, like, this is what I think she'll say, but don't listen to me because I'm not a damn attorney.
Yeah.
Call her. So people are not.
But it costs me money.
Yeah, well, that's the crux. So I have people now doing that because I've talked to you. This is our 47th podcast, so I'm looking forward to number 50 coming up soon. But I've had a couple friends reaching out to me pretty consistently, like, "Hey, man, give me a call. I got a question." I'm like, "Well, I'm not the doctor."
Yeah.
But there are things that I bring to you, and they're circling back around to me and asking me questions based on some of the things that we're talking about. And so, spinning it back around to a local issue that we're still dealing with is our local health department and our local hospitals are still, I guess, fully promoting COVID shots and COVID vaccines. And so I had a good buddy of mine he says, I'm listening to them all now. I love the podcast. And, I've got my mom who, I'm trying to help out with her medical stuff as we tend to do when our parents get older. And she went to the doctor and the doctor said, how about a COVID vaccine? She's like, yeah, okay, let's go. And, and he's like, what do I do, Schmitty? What do I do? And I'm like, well, man, that's what we're trying to hit on. We're trying to break through ways and get information out enough to where the madness stops. And I don't know. I'll say Andy because Andy is his name, and I'm not going to say his last name to call him out. But if Andy could say, here's Dr. Roy. Dr. Roy is a 50-year practicing physician.
51 now.
51. Oh my gosh, you've aged since the last time we talked. What do you say today to someone like that? And obviously, I don't know her exact age, but she's a little bit older.
Well, most of the articles that are coming out are about the problems that are found with COVID vaccines, not the fact that they make COVID vaccines make COVID any better. Most of the people who died during the pandemic, they came in with COVID and they died from something else. They died from hospital-acquired pneumonia, bacterial pneumonia. And I personally will never take another COVID vaccine unless they show me some hard information that proves that it prevents people from getting COVID. We don't. All it does, and they came right out and said this, is it. If you do get sick with COVID after you take this vaccine, you may not have to be put on a ventilator. Now, that's not very cool right there. So I fortunately, knock on wood, I have not had too many side effects from having taken 4 COVID shots. my brain is a little foggy sometimes, but that might also be the fact that I'm 75 years old. So
Well, and to Andy's mom, and to the point, you still do have patients.
I do 52 of them.
The fact that you're not taking the vaccines yourself,
Yeah,
I would suspect you will tell your patients, I can give you this if you want it and demand it, but I'm not taking it, and here's the reasons.
yeah.
So I mean, this is the type of message that we're trying to get through. That I've got a bunch of clips that come from all over the planet, and the different people that you and I have listened to over the years who've, from the early onset of COVID and the vaccine rollout, have been skeptical on things. Most people agree that there was a window of time, I think, that vaccine might have been helpful to some people. It may have saved some lives, but nowhere to the numbers that they were claiming.
No,
I don't think.
And New Zealand just published some statistics that people who receive the COVID vaccine are something like 800% more likely to have side effects than people who didn't receive the vaccine.
I wish you didn't send that to me, did you?
Well, okay, so just as a dum-dum over here, like, how could you have side effects if you didn't take the vaccine?
Well, things like dropping dead.
I guess I'm not understanding, because you said that they're 800% more likely if they got the vaccine to have side effects than if they didn't take the vaccine. But side effects to the vaccine, how could you have any kind of side effects without?
Well, no,
I guess you wouldn't.
But
You wouldn't drop dead, most likely, is the moral of the story.
If I didn't or if I did take it.
If you didn't take the vaccine,
right,
your chances of just dropping dead aren't very good, and there's a much higher risk of, after taking the vaccine, of just dropping dead.
Oh, okay.
Somebody was telling me that I think it's his daughter-in-law, who's 50 years old, and she has heart problem. She has heart block anyway. And I said, did she take the vaccine? And he said, yes. So, I mean, she's got heart problems with that. And it's kind of unusual for a woman aged in her early 50s to have that problem. And I mean, it can happen, but most of the time it's when you're in your 60s or 70s.
You're talking about clogged arteries?
Clogged arteries and the heart muscle not working well enough.
The myocarditis.
Congestive heart failure, basically. And that's where the heart doesn't pump blood efficiently, and it backs up in the lungs, and you get fluid in your lungs because of that.
So I'm on a side note, I don't know if you guys heard, but I know Dr. Roy said he thought he broke Twitter the other day, but there's been a big denial of service attack on Twitter.
Yeah, it all came from Ukraine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they think it did. It's Travis knows a lot about tech, and someone in China can make it look like they're in Ukraine, and someone in Ukraine can make it look like they're in China. And
but you get enough forensics in there, you can usually find the endpoint.
Yeah.
Usually.
So anyway, you guys both know I've been sharing a bunch of stories from the Vigilant Fox, which they've done a really good job of gathering content and putting in a kind of a format that you can go right through and read through it and have a discussion. And it looks like they're under some kind of attack. I was just looking at these pages a little earlier, and now they're shut down. Anyway, so I was trying to circle back around to Andy's mom, to the point on the vaccine issues, and I'm still looking here, so let me just see if I can find the original articles.
Well, here's what I would suggest to someone who's in their early 80s or late 70s. Try to get as much exercise as you can. Get out in the sunshine, typically in the early morning if you can. Take vitamin D supplements, and lower your weight as much as you possibly can. I mean, it's kind of a bad thing when a 270-pound woman comes into your office and says, "Why do I have diabetes?" I said, "Darling, it's because you weigh 270 pounds and your body is just not working right." And unfortunately, we're seeing that in teenagers now. I live across the street from a middle school, and I see these kids coming to school, and I swear to God, they're 8th graders that weigh 260 going in there. It's not as bad because it's in a more affluent neighborhood. I imagine if you went into the middle school that's close to Bosse High School, that you'd find even more of that. Well, I'll tell you this. I went to a Bosse High School basketball game a couple of weeks ago, and their cheerleaders, they must have had about 12 cheerleaders, and at least 5 of them were morbidly obese.
Mm. Yeah, and well, I think and I'll come back to the COVID vaccine stuff. I think I shared a link or two with Andy so he could share with his mom, and you and I have talked about it ad nauseum on the program about there's no intelligent information out there that says you should be taking a COVID vaccine or a booster at this point in stage, and we
can't believe they can still give them, honestly. But
yeah,
well, there are some states, and I think unfortunately,
there's a number of states that are suing the manufacturers.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 10 states are suing the manufacturers. But I heard something today that you're going to jump up and be happy about, Chad. The state of Utah has banned the insertion of fluorides into their water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's something we've talked about. I talked about it with Dr. Ogle, a retired dentist, and here's the thing. If tooth decay becomes an issue, or if people really want fluoride, their fluoride supplements, you get plenty of fluoride in your toothpaste if you want to use fluoride toothpaste.
Sure.
And there's also a lot of knowledge and a lot of information coming out that there's alternative ways to brush teeth and still protect your teeth and actually regenerate your teeth rather than simply trying to protect them with fluoride. There's actually xylitol and
I went to the dentist here the first day of March, the first work day of March. So it would have been the 3rd. And they asked me if I wanted a fluoride test, and I said, hell no. And she said, "Oh, it's okay. It's all right if you don't." And I did not jump down her throat and say, "You're trying to kill me, woman."
Well, that's good.
Yeah. But I could have done that. I would have done that if I had been 40. But I've mellowed in my age.
Well, so it's funny. It's funny how you get derailed on things. I've got some things here that are related. So it's weird, Travis. Like you saw me trying to go to Vigilant Fox on a couple of different pages, and it wasn't working. So it's like dead, they've had certain pages that are dead, and like this one's still alive. So the whole hubbub. Let's pivot just a little bit.
Sure.
Pivot.
Travis brought a couple things to my attention. There's been a lot of, we didn't meet last week, and I think this particular news was news to last week. And you hear a lot of squeaky wheels complaining about Doge and complaining about RFK. And I always wonder whenever people this early into something are so outspoken and loud, like what is really causing that to happen in them? How has Elon Musk truly affected each of you, or how has RFK truly affected each of you? Rather than saying RFK doesn't believe in vaccines, so all of our kids are going to die of the measles. I mean, that's how quickly they go there. I saw, and there was an outbreak in Texas.
Yep.
But if you do a little research, you'll find there's been outbreaks of measles in years past too. This happens, and sometimes they're vaccinated people.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And both of the health departments state health departments that I have to follow, because I'm licensed in both of those states, will send out things about measles and say that you should talk to your patients about whether or not they have had adequate vaccination for measles, or in fact had real measles in the past. And, I was 5 years old when I had measles, and my blood still has antibodies against measles. I had it checked 2 years ago, and it still is that way. So that's good. And measles, if you get measles, you get lifelong antibodies, except in a few cases. If it's a real light case of measles, you may not develop enough antibodies. If for some reason your body is immune short, then maybe you're not going to have immunity to that. So everybody ought to be tested, and if they don't have that, they should get one MMR vaccination for measles.
Can't you just get a measles vaccine?
Nope. Okay. It's MMR together.
So what? I guess this is something I've seen a bunch of different clips on here recently, and I actually have some MMR vaccine stuff that's coming down the pipeline. I guess my question is, why do you need to create all three of them together?
They were put together 50 years ago, and they have been very, very safe. Now, if they put some extra stuff in it, I have no knowledge of that. But MMR hits three of the worst childhood diseases: mumps, measles, and rubella. Rubella, it kills babies, or makes them terribly, how should I say, terribly harmed when they are born, like blind and
cause birth defects.
Birth defects. Well, it's pretty bad. And actually, I still believe that they are testing women prior to marriage. Although I don't know why, because women still reproduce outside of marriage, but they're requiring that women be vaccinated against rubella.
I had to get. They required me to get something before Grace was born.
That was for pertussis, whooping cough.
Yeah, but it was multiple things. It was
tetanus and
Tdap.
Tdap.
Yeah, Tdap. You said tetanus. It hit me. Yeah. So I mean, there are things they require me to take.
Yeah, tetanus and pertussis, and the other one is diphtheria. That's the D in it. I'll be honest with you guys. In 51 years of medical practice, I have seen one case of diphtheria.
Wow.
And I have seen a couple of cases of measles. I'm not a pediatrician, but I have done some emergency room work, and they brought in a kid he's got something all over him. He's allergic to something. I took one look at that kid, and I said, he's got measles.
He's allergic to measles.
Yeah, he's got measles. Because the pattern that you get from measles is just, you look at them, they've got it's circumaural pallor. They have a sort of white ring around their mouth, and everywhere else on their body is red dots. particularly in their hands. And a lot of other things will cause rashes on your skin.
My face is itching just talking about it. Like I never even had it, but I'm like, oh God.
Measles doesn't itch.
Oh, it doesn't?
No, that's chicken pox that itches.
I guess, yeah.
But there are a lot of rashes out there, but there are only half a dozen or so that will appear on the hands and feet. Measles is one of them, and syphilis is another one.
I don't have that.
Yeah, you sure?
Yeah, I'm positive.
It goes dormant, and then all of a sudden you come up crazy. When 30 or
maybe
40
my wife
years
has
later.
it. No, I'm kidding. You said crazy.
Don't get me started on syphilis, because I was practicing at the end of the Tuskegee experiments, and I had 3 patients who had been in that, and
really?
They all had tertiary syphilis, and it was horrible, and because obviously they lived in farmland, Alabama.
Well, Chad's been very quiet because I'm trying to dig through here and figure out what's going on with all these clips. And I'm not going to just scream conspiracy, so I'm just not doing that. There's several different things.
Did you pay for your internet this week?
Yeah, otherwise we wouldn't be able to do anything right now. So let's circle back around to you'd mentioned going to a local basketball game.
Yeah,
and seeing cheerleaders. I mean, we've shown pictures of beaches in 1980s versus beaches today, and just how everything has changed. I've got a bunch of different graphs and a bunch of different things showing how our health outcomes are getting worse and worse compared to almost every other country. Well, we are worse than every other country, and we spend almost twice the amount of any other country.
And the reason for that is what's put in the food.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot of claims going on right now, and this clip I'm getting ready to share is one of them, and it's a very bombastic claim that some people hearing it may not even, they're just going to say it's fake, and they're going to say they're lying. But you and I have talked about both keto and the carnivore diet. I don't want to say it ad nauseum, but we talked about it a lot. And the difference that I felt in doing it for just a couple months is huge.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the claims that are going on out there, and this guy is kind of in the Maha realm. This is the kind of truth that we need to get to. Is what he's saying true? And his statement, or basically position, is he thinks he can cure up to half of chronic disease in people with diet, and have drastic improvements in as little as 10 weeks. So put somebody on a very strict diet, removing a lot of other things from them, removing all the processed stuff, all the chemicals.
Yeah.
And that's what we're getting ready to get into. You can go ahead if you want to riff a little bit.
And I don't disagree with that because there is so much crap coming out in your food. But it's tough to make a statement like that you're going to take somebody with type 2 diabetes and cure that in 10 weeks.
Well, here's the thing. Here's where we are, Dr. Roy. There's a lot of people that have either borderline or actual type 2 diabetes that may not even know that they have it yet.
Right.
Right? Based on blood work, it may, their signatures may say you've got type 2 diabetes or you're borderline. So at that moment in time, let's just say we're going to run a public experiment, and we know in the city of Evansville alone how many people are pre-diabetic. Let's just say, would you like to get into an experiment and just use food as the only thing that we're going to change in your diet? We're going to try to avoid you getting on medications and all this stuff. I mean, I think that's what Maha's trying to do. Maha's trying to, instead of going to the doctor for the doctor to prescribe you with a pill or Ozempic or something as just an easy fix, why can't we educate and try to train people to solve the problem in advance, and including putting better food in our schools, which is horrible,
and better food on the shelves,
which they've started.
Yeah, not very much.
Well,
let me tell you, you go through
I
there
know.
and you know, the ingredients are just killers.
Well, they got rid of a lot of the red dye. I've got several on.
It's not going to be gone until 2027.
Is that what the number? Is that
Yeah.
what they're doing
Yeah.
with the food? The food
Yeah,
companies.
they're on the red dye.
Okay.
They have until 2027 to get rid of that. On the other hand, you know, one of the things that is done is high fructose corn syrup, and that is in everything. I mean, even your meat, it's in there.
Because they're injecting it in there.
Well, they not the meat like pork chops or something.
Like processed meat.
The processed meat.
So cured like ham,
Yeah.
ham in a package or like
bologna.
bologna and hot dogs, that kind of
Meat
thing.
on the butcher's
Yeah.
floor.
Stuff in your pizzas and
Well, so I feel like kind of my mission is, you know, when I came to you originally, I said, you know, you said, you got this going on, you got this going on, and I'm like, if I can solve this without a pill, that's the way I want to do it. So that's just been in my brain forever. So let's listen to what Dr. Berg has to say. Oh, you got something?
what kind of
to
a
ask?
doctor is he?
I don't know yet.
That's the first thing that I ask when somebody says, "Do
You're saying
this with Dr.
Well, so
somebody."
here's the thing. I don't disagree with you, but I'm also not a doctor, and I feel
Yeah.
like if I can gather enough information and hear it from multiple sources, and we can just run tests,
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter. You know, I could have a PhD level in certain things that I've spent so much time studying in my life. I just don't have the degree to show it off, so to speak. So I'm not saying that what you're getting at is wrong, but I wouldn't call somebody a woo doctor just because they don't have, you know, the right letters after their name.
Yeah, but there are an awful lot of woo doctors that say they're doctors, but they have a doctor in sociology or something like that.
Well, all I'm getting at is I'm always skeptical about people that sell products,
Yeah.
you know, and that's one of the reasons why I've had such a hard time buying into certain things. If someone tells me you can try this thing and try it for 10 weeks and we can measure you before you start this diet, and then we can measure you after, and you're just buying food and you're eating and you're cooking it and you're doing it on your own. I'm not selling you any products. To me, I don't care if a vet tells me that. If he says, I've tried it, I know 150 people personally that have tried it and it works. It's not a prescription. It's just go try it and get yourself out of
That's
diabetes.
what I always try to do
Yeah.
is to tell the people to start eating, you know, much better things. Now, almost all, I won't say all, but almost all of the people with type 2 diabetes are obese. And they would benefit in great amounts if they could lose weight. Whether they get a GLP-1 or not, they can get off their lazy asses and go out and exercise, and they can, you know, get on a keto diet or carnivore.
So food's going to solve it.
I got a little bit to say about that because I mean I'm a little fat and so are you. I mean it is what it is.
I've got a couple pounds.
You know, I've got a little extra, and I think a lot of that can stem from the cost of food.
Yeah.
The cost of good food is substantially more than the cost of crap food. I think
Not necessarily.
by
no,
design.
absolutely necessary. If I give you $50 to shop healthy and I shop less healthy, I'm going to have twice the groceries you are.
That's true.
You can say not necessarily if you want, but that's absolutely true.
You can go buy two really good steaks and put a good dent in $50 these days.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, or to get, you know, just all natural vegetables or fruit.
Your point
or whatever,
is it costs a lot more to.
I'm just saying it costs a lot more to
buy-
eat healthy is one thing.
It can and it cannot. If you're eating a lot of fresh fruit and fresh vegetables, those don't have anything in them.
And those cost more than canned fruit and canned vegetables or frozen. Like they cost more.
Not so much more than the frozen ones.
Well, canned,
I
sorry.
would need canned vegetables if you put them in front of me and I was dying of starvation.
So for some reason you're wanting to fight me on this,
what was
which
your
is
point?
fine.
Keep going with your point.
But all I'm saying is it is more expensive to eat healthier. It absolutely is. My other thing is why can't we just, and I realize there's going to be a financial impact, there's going to be a work impact as far
Yeah.
as people and their jobs and things if we did this. But if we ate the stuff that we export to the EU to do everything that they want to do to the food, it would be substantially better. And it's not that hard. It's already being produced. Like that would be a really big change. But once again, it's probably going to cost more because supply demand.
It's probably about 1% of the production of food in the United States gets shipped out.
But they require so much. Like if you look at just the cereals and you look at some of the things that are, it's so different.
Well, and one of the things that I don't want to get deep into it
because part of the Maha thing.
Well, food subsidies is a big chunk of food cost.
Yeah,
and a lot of this crappy stuff that you get that you can buy with the card that it's just junk food, and the food companies the farmers have subsidies
it's
to create. They creating all these grains and all these different things that go into all of it, and the reason it's cheap is because our government takes money and it shifts it to farmers to make this stuff cheap. Or why couldn't we shift it to cattle and actually meat and chicken that actually we could make it cheaper?
So we've got a couple of friends that run pretty large scale farm. I mean, it's still maybe like a 10 guy or like it's not massive. It's not like Tyson or anything. But they will get paid a lot of times for some of their crop. They're paid to destroy that crop. They're paid to not sell that crop.
Either not even plant it.
Sometimes they're even or they're asked to plant a different seed than they were planning to plant, or whatever it might be. But the fact that
makes sense for me.
Yeah, me too. It's a supply and demand thing, and I get it, but I don't know. That's baffling. But my point originally was, like, for instance, my wife and I, we'll hit the grocery store once every 2 weeks because my big check comes in every 2 weeks, and $350, $400 for us to eat for 2 weeks. And that's garbage. Like, I don't want to say garbage, but I mean, that's not high quality stuff that we get. I'm not going to lie, because it's so expensive.
Yeah. So the other part of this that we have to weigh into it from a cost perspective, and this is what, to me, Maha, if you really get into the math of how much healthcare costs per person, and I think it's something like $8,000 per year per person now.
It's more than that.
Well, whatever it is, it's like double the next highest one in the world. If you take that $4,000 and you apply that per person towards better food, you effectively get us $4,000 cheaper. If we can become more like Japan, or even China is much healthier than we are.
Yeah,
we're saving that much. That's $12,000 per month per household of savings. How much food can you buy for that? I mean, if you just really look at the numbers really, really hard, it's really not. It's not that the food is more expensive. Good food.
It doesn't have to be, though.
It doesn't have to.
Is what you're saying.
It shouldn't.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had another thing. Did you get to the point?
That was pretty much my point. It was just the cost of healthier food is more and stuff. But.
So I'll do some research on who this guy really is. And my point to Dr. Roy is that he makes a point that this guy's just interviewing people and having conversations with people. And I don't know what it is. But
if he's got a doctoral degree in nutrition and that sort of thing, probably what he says is right. But if he's, a neuro...
Can I challenge you on that?
Yeah.
I went to school I was a physical education major, and I took nutrition, I took anatomy, physiology. I taught a lot of pre-med stuff. The junk that they told and taught back then was basically the food guide pyramid.
Yeah.
So you're telling me, and this is just me pushing back on you a little bit, because I have a nutrition degree and I've been trained this bull crap. You have bull crap degree.
Well, and if he comes out and starts talking bull crap, 60% carbohydrates and 15% protein and 15% fats, then that's BS.
And this guy, he's mostly keto and he's mostly carnivore, I think is what he talks about.
I remember getting that pyramid shoved down my throat in school and stuff. I remember that. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, let's listen to the clip.
It's upside down.
Yeah, it always has been.
Yeah.
We don't really need bread.
Tell you that we could literally end chronic disease in 10 weeks. Would you believe me? Today I'm bringing on Nina Teicholz, one of the most credible experts in this area. She is a best-selling author. She has her PhD in nutrition and has been deeply involved in researching the dietary guidelines for over 2 decades. I think you're going to be thoroughly blown away at this interview. So Nina, RFK has this huge goal of getting rid of chronic disease. And you personally have studied this specific area of chronic disease and the dietary guidelines for roughly at least 20 years, probably longer than that. What, based on the most credible research, would you say is the solution to chronic disease?
I think there's no question that the strongest, most rigorous evidence to support disease reversal is with a ketogenic or low carbohydrate diet. And what we have is more than 100 clinical trials now, which there's no greater amount of clinical trial research except for on the Mediterranean diet, which does not have as good results. There are more than 100 clinical trials showing that with a ketogenic or low carbohydrate diet, that not only can we reverse type 2 diabetes in merely 10 weeks, but also hypertension, the vast majority of cardiovascular risk factors, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
10 weeks. I mean, an average doctor who's treating someone with type 2 diabetes, how many weeks are they treating diabetes for?
The reversal rate, where you reverse a type 2 diabetes diagnosis with standard of care, that's 0.1%.
Oh my gosh.
In clinical trials using a ketogenic diet, often with support from a mobile app, that reversal rate is more than 50%.
This is huge. I mean, this should be all over the place. It should be in the news. Doctors should be using it, but they're not really using it, are they?
I've been following this for the past 10 years, and I have not seen a single mainstream news article
He's just
on
asking
the
good
ability
questions.
to
That's the thing.
reverse
Yeah.
a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes using diet, natural means. You see an article every week, every day on Ozempic or the GLP-1s, right? That tells you that the media is really informed by the pharmaceutical companies, by which they're also funded.
People think type 2 diabetes is irreversible, but that is absolutely, positively not true. You can do it. There's credible studies. And when we talk about credible, we're talking about the type of studies that they've done and also the number of participants, right, and the length of time. It's not some little observational study.
The largest trial ever on type 2 diabetes reversal had 300 patients in it. The patients on average had been living with diabetes for 8.4 years, and the majority of them were on insulin. And even so, they reversed more than half of their patients' diabetes in 10 weeks.
Also, tell us about...
So it's actually a really good video. I highly recommend it. And she brings a lot of facts, and it's like a 16-minute video.
Yeah,
and so
she said that it was a very large study. 300 patients is not a very large study. 300,000 patients is a big study. And she said about half of them could get rid of their diabetes. Now,
that's pretty strong evidence in 10 weeks.
Yeah, in 10 weeks.
150 people out of 300?
Yeah, that's 50%, but you don't really know how many of those people who didn't lose their diabetes were compliant.
Well, that's true. I mean, so you because they weren't in-house, they weren't.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Lock somebody up for 10 weeks and have them be on a double-blind placebo? I mean,
Yeah, they might.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
Think about the expense of that. Pharma's not going to pay for it. So if Maha can pay for 5,000 people to be in house arrest and only eat what they're handed for 10 weeks, to me, this is where you and I might probably have a little bit of friction. If I can use anecdotal evidence myself and listen and say, if I'm going to be strict on this, I don't want to be diabetic. There's a 50% chance me going on this diet for 10 weeks, I can reverse and not have to go on GLP-1s or all these different things.
Remember,
I would rather do that before.
You go on for 10 weeks and you continue it forever.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Because if you stop at the end of 10 weeks and go back to eating Fruit Loops and pasta, you're going to have diabetes again.
100% right. Yeah. So I mean, the part of it is education. Part of it is people need to be sat down with doctors who care and say, you're at a fork in the road here.
Yeah.
You can change your diet and change your lifestyle, or if you keep doing what you're doing and not making adjustments, you're going to end up having to give yourself shots and dying young and losing different, faculties on your body.
I only had a tiny parcel of patients who took that to heart and actually lost weight and ate properly. Most of them will say, "Give me a pill. Give me a pill. I want to be able to drink Gatorade and what's the stuff called? Mountain Dew. That's Mountain Dew's like drinking poison." But when I go to Walmart to do my shopping, and I do that because it's less expensive there, and they do have some fairly good food there if you know what you're looking for. But I see people walking out with cases of Mountain Dew and with 6 or 7 different boxes of cereal and not a single vegetable in their cart. Yeah. No fruit, no vegetables, and I didn't really see any meat in their carts. They're probably some of the processed meats that they were taking.
I'm more of a libertarian probably than both of you, so I'm about giving people the freedom to choose.
Yeah.
Here's where I will go to the other side of that. If you're on public assistance or you're getting a card and taxpayer money is paying for your groceries,
you
shouldn't be able to buy sodas with that. You shouldn't be
able to buy cereal with that.
It should be nutritious because basically we're funding getting people into diabetic mode, and then we're paying for it on the back end through higher and higher medical costs.
Yeah, so, Medicaid's going broke in almost every state.
Yeah, so if you want to drink and eat and live the lifestyle you want to live, unfortunately that is going to affect everyone else's. But it's going to everyone's going to pay for it because our medical prices keep going up. But I mean, I think the beginning of this thing is part of it. So we're talking about the Maha movement. We're talking about food being a source of obesity and ill health and all these other things. Here's another piece of it that just came down that I wanted you to hear, Dr. Roy, because we've talked about it.
40% of our teenagers struggle with anxiety now and depression.
Which there are studies coming out of Stanford and Harvard that show a lot of mental illness, including anxiety and depression, are related to food.
Yeah.
And that changing your diet, food is medicine. By changing your diet, you can lose some of those diagnoses. And this, Sean, is a uniquely American problem. This is not happening like it is here elsewhere in the world. When my uncle was president, 3% of Americans were obese. As you pointed out, it's now close to 80% of adults, 50% of children. But in Japan, it's still 3%.
Because
they don't eat this.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Don't they live on average 10 years longer than men here?
Yeah, and this generation of our kids is the first generation in 200 years that is going to have a shorter lifespan than their parents.
Scary.
We are letting down these kids, and there's a moral issue here, and we need to start grappling with it because it's a moral issue, it's a financial issue. The healthcare costs are going to sink us. And the only way that we're going to solve it is by changing what we eat.
Yeah, so I mean,
I agree completely with that.
And is it going to cure all the mental health issues? No, it's not. He's not saying, we're going to take away people's antidepressants and antipsychotic medication. We're saying we can reverse some of these things and naturally cure these people who are being triggered by the food they put in their body or the dyes or the different chemicals and stuff that are laden.
Yeah, all the other stuff that's on the side of what you're buying.
What kind of sucks is that's a fierce circle because my wife kind of battles depression. And unfortunately, when she gets kind of down, her recourse is to eat crap.
Yes.
Like junk food, not candy, but like just sweet snacks. Or
Carbohydrates are like
whatever it is. And then if, according to RFK, which I totally believe that would absolutely be the case, it's going to be this vicious cycle now of
because carbohydrates, especially high processed carbohydrates, make you hungrier. Mm-hmm. You have to put more and more in over time to get the same satiation that you get, and it is a vicious cycle, like you're saying. And it's not the person's fault; they're not weak-minded. They're literally putting food. Well, I mean, they're putting food into their body. You're lucky your wife can't see your gestures over there. Exactly. You're lucky you're on the wrong side of the camera. But the moral of the story is generally the Maha movement is people need to pay attention to. It's a bunch of different cascading effects that are going on around us. And some of these cuts and some of these things that he's saying is going to be scary to people, especially people that make a lot of money in processed food industries.
Sure.
You know, it's going to be a little scary for farmers right out of the gate if all the subsidies, you know, get changed around a little bit because we're not making as many of the highly processed foods over time. And, you know,
but that's singular from the farmers, because the farmers are selling, you know, good oats and good wheat and good soybeans that can be used.
As long as they're not putting weed killer or the different bug killers that aren't very good for us.
Well, they don't usually put that in wheat, but they do soy. Let me tell you, soy is bad for you.
Soybeans?
Soybeans, yeah, because they put the Roundup on it to kill all the foliage, and then they go through and harvest the beans, and it's got it all over them and inside them.
Yeah, we all have microplastics in us anyway. We're all going to die. It's okay.
Well, I mean, part of the large language model things that are going on, I think, is the research and the sharing of information of how we're going to get rid of the metals and the toxins. And I mean, there's definitely ways that we can help remove some of that from our bodies. And that's part of the information that's coming out.
Nanotech.
That's right. So I don't know who shut down our COVID vaccine discussion in the deep state, but there are some Vigilant Fox things here that have survived. This one is talking about flu vaccines. So we've talked about some vaccines, and
you want to show it?
Yeah, sure. Dr. Roy is a pro-vaccine person. I have taken all of the vaccines up to COVID, and I mean, I'm older, so I don't have the 72 that our kids now have to take.
Yeah.
But whatever I was told to do to get into school, I've done. I have not been a flu vaccine person. Just never have really believed in it and haven't done it for my own reasons. And call me whatever you will for that. But the Vigilant Fox, I'm going to highly recommend people subscribing. I'm not getting paid to promote them. But this particular piece comes from March 12th, 2025. It says 2 decades ago, CBS.
That's today.
Yeah.
Oh.
Two decades ago, CBS, which are my initials, by the way, and I've offered Donald Trump, if he wants to give me that station, he can give it to me. Anyway, CBS aired a bombshell report on the flu shot, revealing the truth that health officials didn't want to admit, despite flu shot uptake among seniors skyrocketing. So I'm going to give you a clip of this, and Jimmy Dore shows it. Jimmy Dore is a very liberal. I'd call him still a Democrat, but he's definitely a former Democrat for sure. But let's just listen.
This might blow your mind. CBS is doing a report. Of course, it's from 20 years ago. That tells you that the flu shot. Well, this is what they tell you. Watch this. Hold on to your, because this is going to blow your mind.
Here's what scientists have found. Over 20 years, the percentage of seniors getting flu shots increased sharply from 15% to 65%.
Wow. So then the seniors who are dying from flu should go way down, right?
Nope.
It stands to reason that flu deaths among the elderly should have taken a dramatic dip, making an X graph like this. Instead, flu deaths among the elderly continue to climb.
Whoa!
It was hard to believe, so researchers at the National Institutes of Health set out.
Hard to believe. So then researchers at the corrupt National Institute of Health, NIH, did a study, which they then suppressed and buried. But CBS got their hands on it. And here's what they found.
To do a study adjusting for all kinds of factors that could be masking the true benefits of the shots. But no matter how they crunched the numbers, they got the same disappointing result. Flu shots had not reduced deaths among the elderly. It's not what health officials hope to find. NIH wouldn't let us interview the study's lead author. So we went to Boston and found the only co-author not employed by NIH, Dr. Tom Reichert.
We realized that we had incendiary material.
Dr. Reichert says they thought their study would prove vaccinations had helped.
We were trying to do something mainstream, that's for sure.
Were you surprised?
Astonished.
Did you check the data a couple of times?
So they thought.
So I want to play tag along with him as he's commenting. I'm going to let Dr. Roy kind of hear. So all the things that we talk about over time, you know, we'd like to think that most doctors get good information over time, and we go to doctors for certain reasons. And, you know, we were very trusting of doctors. Doctors were some of the most sought after, respected people in our community, and some of them still are. But we've talked about it a lot. As a lot of people are now more and more hesitant to go talk to doctors. And it's solely, I don't believe it's the doctor's fault, except for the fact that they have bad information put in front of them, and then they have things that are significant suppressed and hidden from them. So how do you make good decisions? You know, you can take the number of patients that come into your office, give them the flu vaccine, and if they don't get sick that year, you're like, hey, flu vaccine worked. I mean, it's anecdotal because they're not. It is what it is. But when you have something like this that is purposefully hidden 20 years ago, go ahead, Travis.
I was going to let you finish, but I was doing that to kind of get your attention. But it's going to sound like I'm switching gears on you, but I'm not. Just hear me out. Have you seen the miniseries Chernobyl?
No.
Okay. There's a lot of unveiling of what happened in Chernobyl, and the Russians hiding a lot of information, not just from the outside world, but hiding information from the inside world. Chernobyl was ultimately caused because the state of Russia didn't want their people to know that they jacked up on that reactor. So, and all I'm getting at is when you suppress information, bad things will normally happen, regardless if it's the information you want or the information you don't want. But but Russia did this very thing to cause Chernobyl, and well, just take that for what it is. But I mean, it's just wild that I just watched that.
It sways the whole industry, and there's this big veil over nuclear because of things like that have happened that were avoidable.
It was. They were actually. They knew that this could be a problem years before it happened.
One of the last ones that happened from the tidal wave, that's avoidable now because we have better technology and we know how to build things better. What did you want to say on it?
Well, I wonder how many of those people that they counted as dying from influenza had other causes to make them die as an elder. Mm-hmm. For example, they perhaps had been receiving chemo for cancer. They had a weak heart, or they were obese. They very obese. Had
up to 2006. I don't think they weren't nearly as obese as we are today. I mean, even in 20 years, we've had a major. I mean, even when I graduated in 90, I think even up to 2000.
I'm talking about the elders who died, and a lot of them are obese, and a lot of them all have underlying cardiac problems or underlying liver problems. Mm-hmm. And I wonder how many of these people that actually got influenza developed a secondary amount of pneumonia from bacteria that they just couldn't get rid of.
Well, I mean, the most significant thing to me is they had a massive uptick in flu vaccinations for elderly, and you got a certain amount of a number of people dying, and you don't know why they're dying. They're dying of old people things or cancer, heart, like kind of what you're saying. But you would think the vaccine designed to stop flu, we've been told that flu is a big killer, that the vaccine, which is supposed to stop said flu or make it much less virulent, is that
virulent is a good word.
So you would think that would change the curve, and it just didn't.
No, it didn't affect. It didn't change the curve, and I'll tell you the health systems in this. Now, one of them does and one of them doesn't require that I get a flu shot. This year was the first year I was not going to get a flu shot. And one of the health systems said, you must provide proof of having had this vaccination. Shit, I've got 51 patients and no employees. Before, I remember that we had to show proof of all of our employees being vaccinated. But they were adamant about this. I said, I don't want to take that.
Isn't that
And
just
they
forcing
said,
you into compliance?
Yeah.
Basically all it is. And
They
so if
said
they force you to do it, then
if
you're going to give it to somebody else, and then they've got the blanket security.
If you want to continue on our physician roster, you must provide proof of vaccination. So
To me,
I went to Walgreens and got a free flu shot.
This is the crux of the conversation that we keep hitting our head up against not every podcast episode, but whenever I have conversations with people and they say local media, the mainstream media, local channels are doing their job. No, they're not.
No.
Because this is a story that if you were focusing on it regularly, it should be talked about every single week. And everyone should know about it. Because we don't want to be vaccine hesitant, Dr. Roy.
Yeah.
We're not trying to do that. If a study like this occurs and it shows that more flu vaccinations don't curve the amount of flu or the number of deaths, then you got to look at the risk that you're taking every time you put a vaccine in your body. And every vaccine has inherent risks. Not saying that they're terrible, not saying that you're going to die because you have one, but there are risks with everything that you inject in your body.
I know.
So
I know. I bet you can't guess which one of the two health systems in town was the one that pushed me on that.
We probably shouldn't say.
Well, I mean, I don't.
It's
his information, so I don't know why we're not belittling.
I would
him.
say the D.
No, it's not.
Oh, it wasn't the D.
It was the A.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it was the A, and they were adamant about it. I said, I don't want to get a flu shot. And they said, if you want to stay on our staff, you will get a flu shot and give me.
That's crazy because they're actually the smaller of the two.
Yep.
Anyway.
I don't even know. Let's get back into this clip because I think there's some good information in here.
Their study was going to reveal that flu shots actually had a big benefit and reduced deaths among seniors. That's what they thought that their study was going to show. Just right? But so they actually did study the flu shot. And what did they find out?
Sure. Well, even more than that, we've looked at other countries now, and the same is true.
That study, soon to be published, finds the same poor results in Australia, France, Canada, and the UK. And other new research stokes the idea that decades of promoting flu shots in seniors and the billions spent haven't had the desired result. The current head of national immunizations confirms CDC is now looking at new strategies, but stopped short of calling the present policy a failure.
There's an active dialogue into how we can do better to prevent influenza and its complications in the elderly.
So what's an older person to do? The CDC says they should still get their flu shots.
You should still get it. The CDC says you should still get your flu shot.
Yeah.
Nope.
Hey, still take your fentanyl. Don't stop your fentanyl just because, even though we're looking into it.
And if you can, you should combine it with your new booster for COVID. If you can.
Yeah.
He's a comedian, Dr. Roy. He's being I don't know, it's not ironic. What is he being? He's being facetious.
He's being funny.
Yeah.
That it could make flu less severe or prevent other
minute.
problems not reflected in the total numbers. But watch for CDC to likely shift in the near future more toward protecting the elderly in a roundabout way by vaccinating more children and others around them who could give them the flu.
Well,
so they're doing that.
Yeah.
So they were saying that back in 2006. Hey, give the flu shot to people who aren't at risk from the flu, so you can protect someone who is.
Well, that's the whole thing they were doing with COVID.
Yeah, so I mean, exactly right. We're using kids as shields, basically, or pretending that's what we're doing.
Right.
But there's no proof that actually giving them the vaccine is stopping transmission or virulence.
No.
So again, these are the types of study for me going back and not taking the flu shot because it's all anecdotal. Like,
had
you should get your flu shot.
I gone back to the health system that was insisting and showed them this, they would have come back with me and say, "You are off our roster."
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know, and I'm never trying to back you into those corners.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to get you unwelcome into these establishments. But at the end of the day, if I and other people don't stand up, and you knocked on Dr. Berg, and here's what I'll say about Dr. Berg: I'm not a doctor.
Yeah,
but at least I'm standing up and asking the damn questions.
Sure.
At least I'm asking But the problem is no doctors really will come out and talk about it because they have the golden duct tape and the golden handcuffs. And so what am I supposed to do? I got to trust a chiropractor because at least he has the cojones to come out and talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to do. Give me some more reputable people to talk to, and we can keep going.
And we've got more reputable people that are doing that, who have MD degrees, who have DO degrees, and this is happening everywhere. That more and more non-physicians are claiming to practice their things. There's a group here in town of chiropractors who are saying that they can treat autism, they can treat diabetes, they can treat depression, and all these other things. I'll tell you what one of them did. He took a patient of mine and did all this blood work on her, and then sent me a prescription to write a prescription for thyroid medicine. And I said, why didn't he write it himself? And she said, well, he can't write it. And I said, then I'll look at the data and I'll decide whether or not you need it. I am not going to let a chiropractor tell me how to practice medicine. And I reported him to the chiropractic council, and they didn't do anything. We had another chiropractor who was working for a group of physicians here in town, giving shots for pain, and that's not within their sphere of practice. And we never got anything back from the chiropractic people or the medical people.
Well, I know some of the local clinics. I know a couple that are popping up. They actually have medical doctors on staff, kind of at the higher range, and they'll look at blood work, and then they got local nurse practitioners or whatever that basically
nurse practitioners is fine, but the credentials of this guy are all chiropractic. He's a board certified chiropractor and neurologist, or chiropractor endocrinologist. I mean, what can they do to crack your back to make your pancreas work any better?
Yeah.
Blood flow, man. It's the nerves. I don't know. I'm kidding. My wife swears by chiropractors, but I'm scared of them. So.
And I've had good luck with chiropractors, but I don't rely on them to give me shots and stuff. It's more of,
and I do too. I mean, I've gone to chiropractors for
Dr. Eric,
a long
Mr.
time.
Miyagi.
Yeah, I went to Dr. Eric, and I went to the lady on the west side.
That's who my wife
when
does.
I needed that. But ever since I started taking biweekly massages. The massage therapist. What?
He's going to Asian massage.
Yeah.
No,
I said massages with quotes.
Yeah. No, this is the real deal. And
I'm sure it is. I'm kidding with you. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Keep going.
they're all taken care of. They got that.
The thing I loved about
I haven't had any problems with my low back in like 15 years.
Yeah, I've so what I always love. I won't call out Dr. Eric because I didn't tell him I would. But what I loved about him, and whenever he treated my low back issues, he said, if I can't get you better and feeling more and more normal after 3 sessions, I'm not going to do any more on you.
I'm going to send you to Dr. Roy.
Yeah, well, that was it. Well,
I think I've got a thyroid issue.
We were in the same group.
No.
So since I haven't gotten Dr. Roy riled up yet today, I'm gonna.
I'm riled up already now.
Oh, you were riled up when you got here, but I haven't had the ability yet to give that to you. So I'm gonna try to give you some of the riling here. Hang on.
Sure. I'm Cheryl Atkinson. We begin today with an incredible story that spans 25 years so far. It involves the MMR vaccine against measles, mumps, and rubella, given to most American babies in 2 doses. Yet you probably never heard about this controversy. It's brought to us by a scientist named Stephen Kraling, who worked on a project at Merck called Protocol 7 and was uniquely positioned to blow the whistle on what he learned. In the bigger sense, his account raises questions about what can go on unknown to most of us about products injected into nearly all children. Stephen Kraling was a published cancer researcher when vaccine maker Merck brought him on board as a virologist in 1999. That's when he says he found himself embroiled in an all-hands-on-deck corporate emergency.
So when I showed up to start work at Merck, they were dealing with a potential product recall, and it wasn't something that was just casually discussed. It was a sky is falling level event.
The crisis surrounded Merck's blockbuster-selling MMR vaccine against measles, mumps, and rubella, and worries that it might be defective.
It was the end of the world for them. I mean, can you imagine if they have to recall that? They have to go to the millions of parents whose kids got out of specification vaccine, let them know. They have to take the MMR vaccine off the shelves, and they didn't have a solution, so they would have had to stop selling it, stop distributing it.
Yeah.
To understand Kraeling's part in this scandal, it helps to know something about how the vaccine is designed to work.
So the MMR vaccine is one of the vaccines that contains live virus. Not all vaccines do, but this functions, if I'm stating it correctly, with some live virus in it that triggers an immune response or whatnot.
Yeah, all three viruses are live viruses.
And there's a limit on both ends of how much has to be in there, but no more than whatever for it to be safe and effective.
Yeah, and it's that upper limit, the maximum amount of virus, live virus that might be in it, has to be safe. And the lowest amount has to be efficacious. But within those parameters is where the product has to fall. So you can't have a lower amount of live virus and you can't have a higher amount of live virus.
Though MMR was widely given in the 1970s, the 1980s saw measles, mumps, and rubella outbreaks among many vaccinated children and young adults. For example, in 1985, 69 measles cases at an Illinois high school with a 99.7% vaccination rate. Ultimately, the CDC recommended all children get a second dose of MMR. But the tricky part for Merck came in the mid-90s, when the FDA began a review of vaccines and found the potency of MMR wore off as it sat on shelves. So the FDA instructed Merck to start putting more virus into the vaccine up front. That's called overfilling, so it would stay potent for its 2-year shelf life. Merck started doing that in early 2000 and told us it's still doing that today.
So the problem was that these viruses degrade over time, and Merck had to calculate backwards and say, we need to add more virus so that the stuff doesn't degrade, because the FDA was adamant. You cannot keep distributing that vaccine if it's out of specification. They had to do this thing called an overfill, which is the same as if you take a glass of water and pour a lot into it till it overfills. They added more virus, vaccine virus, to the vaccine for measles, mumps, and rubella.
So that when it degraded over time on the shelf, it would still meet the lowest threshold it had to meet?
Exactly.
But what if someone got that vaccine 1 week into it being on the shelf before it degraded?
They're getting a very high amount of vaccine virus.
If there's too much live virus in a shot, what are the sorts of problems that could occur? That's a potential safety risk?
Of course.
All right. So this is about a 23-minute video, and I didn't send this to Dr. Roy in advance, so I'm not going to put you on the spot and let me, basically say what you think about this. I'd rather you take this one and digest it on your own and do your own kind of analysis and bring that back to us. I think that might be a good tool for us to take information like this, because I'm not even saying this story. I mean, it says something to me. It's a trust factor for me a little bit. But what I want to know is, what are they doing? We've talked about it on past podcasts.
This is from the 1900s.
No, this particular thing just came out.
Yeah, but he was talking about when he came to work for Merck in 1995. That's when it was happening, and
nothing's been done. And now they're just pushing more virus into the thing to keep the shelf stable part of it.
Well, tell me this: why didn't the FDA go to the other manufacturers of that vaccine and say, how can yours be good and Merck's not be good?
Are you asking me why the FDA is corrupt?
No, because I know that.
Well, I mean, you're asking me a very tricky question, because how do I answer that knowing that they're morally bankrupt?
Yeah, you don't. And
you got a revolving door. And certain people have certain rules at the top, and then you get another person coming in, and then it's a new.
There are no. Now this guy's got to show me that by overloading the vaccines, that people were actually harmed.
Well, I think that's. I mean, again, I don't want to go through this entire thing.
Yeah.
I'd like to give this to you.
Sure.
This is a foundational. Like, I think this is kind of the baseline of what RFK is trying to get to. He's like, I want transparency. I want to see things. I want data, and I want us to be able to talk about these things and use science.
Yeah,
which is what we haven't been getting from these companies.
And remember that they're talking about having virus in their vaccines. This was attenuated virus that they're putting in there, and meaning the viruses are not as lively as they would be in the patients that actually get them from someone else.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, we're both speculating on things that we don't know what they are and what they aren't doing.
Well, then send that to me.
I just did. I sent it.
Yeah,
I sent you the Vigilant Fox link, and it's got the other one on there as well.
Okay, and I'll take a look at that. But why is this just coming? I want to know, why is this just coming out in 2025?
March 9th, 2025. You want me to give you what I think?
Current administration.
It's called RFK.
Yeah, but this guy apparently brought it to everybody's attention, and he got fired from Merck, probably.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, he's just now. Did he bring it to their attention back then, or is he just bringing it to their attention now?
Well, so again, I'm not gonna. I want you to listen to it. We're just speculating. We're speculating on what he did. We can listen to a little more if you want, but
no, I'll go ahead and take a look at it. But there's an issue here. If you put more virus in there, it has to be attenuated virus. They don't put. There are only a couple of things that have live killer viruses in their immunizations, and
so I think the resonating theme here that we've got all this stuff going on, and we started when we talked about all the bad mouthing of Elon and all the bad mouthing of RFK. They've basically taken the same tactics on how they've attacked Trump for the last 10 years. They basically just moved it over onto Elon and RFK.
Oh, sure.
They're doing the same things.
Well, they're doing the same things with Trump, too.
Chicken Little sky, the sky is falling. The measles cases down in Texas, and all of a sudden it's RFK's fault because he's making people vaccine hesitant, when there's studies going back saying 97% of the people in the school back in the 80s, 99 had the MMR and they still got it. So it's like the how quickly people will just set off and just come up with an opinion that's based in nothing drives me crazy.
Yeah, that's so talking about that is everybody is complaining about everything that Trump's doing as far as the tariffs and what the other countries and one thing that I wanted to bring up a little bit, we talked about it, and I'm just kind of piggybacking off what you were just talking about, though, is that people are acting like he's wishy-washy with what he's doing with tariffs, specifically Canada most recently. Well, he imposed a tariff, and in just a little bit of time after he imposed that tariff, they agreed to stop charging us a surcharge for electricity.
Sure.
And so Trump dropped the tariff.
Yeah.
They call it a Trump loss. They act like he capitulated and he actually got what he wanted.
There's an end result that he's after, and he designs a way to get there.
It's like shooting basketball. You feint, shoot, and somebody backs off, and then you shoot and get it in the hoop.
Yeah. Well, he wrote a book on it called Art of the Deal.
Yeah. There's that.
He knows how to do those things.
Ukraine has agreed to a ceasefire. We're trying to hoping that Russia will agree to it to get that ceasefire going.
I can almost assure you that Putin will do do
Yeah, I think he will too.
Oh, that's because he's part of the.
He's
Russians.
in his pocket. We're selling. Yeah, that's why Elon's in the Doge. Is he's selling all the Social Security numbers to Russia? You know that?
Didn't Trump? Didn't he get elected because of he was in the bag for Russia and there was propaganda going on? That was a fake story.
Yeah, that was a fake story back in 2016.
Just to derail a little bit because Travis did.
Sorry.
No, it's like back when all of that happened, we weren't in bad standing with Russia at the time. There wasn't a lot of negative Russia, but there was already people that were wanting to attack Russia. And that whole thing before it set off in Ukraine, to me, was partially caused by them taking Trump out of office. Biden comes in, and 30 seconds later, there's a war in Ukraine, and we're fighting Russia.
That doesn't have to do with Hunter, does it?
Well, he's in Ukraine getting paid by energy companies, and he has no experience in energy.
Oh.
I don't know what that has to do with anything, but I'm certain a lot of money went to the big guy.
I think this is getting off the rails. I mean, the cocaine. I mean, the rails of... Wait, what?
The cocaine?
So back onto the Doge and RFK thing, I think there's this clip I had queued up.
I teed it up for you, baby.
Let's go.
Knock it off the tee.
Let's go.
I mean, the reality is that our elected officials have very little power relative to the bureaucracy until Doge. So Doge is a threat to the bureaucracy. It's the first threat to the bureaucracy. Normally the bureaucracy eats revolutions for breakfast. This is the first time that they're not, that the revolution might actually succeed, that we could restore power to the people instead of power to the bureaucracy.
Okay. Hard stop.
Are you getting ready to play the other thing?
Hard stop. We can, and we will in time. Most people don't know that Barack Obama tried to create an agency. I think it was called the USDC, and I did a.
Oh yeah.
And it was designed. And I'm going to give you a.
Why wasn't it successful?
Well, I'll give you what it was. I'm going to read. I'm using.
How many pairs of glasses are you going to use over there?
Piss off, Doc.
He's on his third.
Well,
go get your glasses.
So these are ones that happen before the sun goes down.
Yeah.
They don't have orange tint. These don't have any reader potential in them. So I have these on whenever I'm not reading, and these are readers. So I won't use these anymore. Are we good? Are we good?
We're down to 2, Doc.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's dropped it 33% now.
Okay. So I asked a question to Grok, and say what you want about Grok. But
I thought I broke Grok the other day.
It was dead for a minute.
Yeah.
Elon brought it back to life. So my question basically was, Obama had created something called USDS. Is it the original Doge? There have been references to President Obama actually creating the first Doge. Is there any truth to that? It says, yes, there is some truth to that Obama's United States Digital Service, USDS, is the original Doge, but it's more accurate to say the USDS was repurposed and rebranded into what is now called the Department of Government Efficiency. They're not exactly the same, and blah, 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 blah. Obama established the USDS in 2014 after healthcare.gov rollout went sideways. It was meant to be a tech-savvy SWAT team of sorts, bringing in private sector experts to fix government digital services, modernize it, and make agencies more user-friendly. Its focus was narrow, improving tech infrastructure like websites, online tools, not slashing budgets or restructuring bureaucracies. It operated under the Office of Management and Budget and stayed relatively low-key with about 200 staff by the time Trump took office. So it says...
Wait, was that a joke?
It says a lot here, and I guess what I want the people that are just going out and screaming Elon like they have Trump derangement syndrome is he's not doing anything different than what Obama set up, except for getting showing results. The numbers.
He's doing it better.
Well, he's showing the numbers. It's the same concept.
Yeah.
Of course he's doing it better because he owns tech companies. I mean, he is a tech giant. He's shooting rockets into the sky, and yes, he owns a solar company and a car company. But it's all technology. And it's all putting hackers and very smart people and coders into a room and saying, build this for me. This is how we have rockets going to Mars pretty soon. So I guess to just take some ease off of people, this is an Obama original idea. And the only thing that was added to it was we're adding transparency of where the money's going. It's the exact same principle. We're just doing a better job of it now.
They didn't do anything at all back in 2014.
Well, they said they did. They had 200 employees up through the Obama administration. Whatever.
How many $1 billion did they put back into the treasury?
Well, they were probably turned into USAID people. I mean, they're probably
USAID. That's how they did that.
Well, they're burning and shredding over there like crazy right now, right?
Oh yeah. I don't know if I have that right. Which. Did you send me a clip, Travis?
I did. Yeah.
That? Let me.
Yeah. I mean, it was an article. It was on like CNN or CNBC or something.
Here, I think
I think I got it here.
Let me see if I can get it queued up. Turn me down real quick so I can make sure that I've got it going. No, I don't want to do that.
He's mumbling.
Okay, let's go. Oh, you killed something.
I did. I click the speaker down
wait.
right there.
It was not only unethical.
Start it over.
Let me also ask you something from my vantage point as a former White House employee about shredding and destroying documents. This was not only unethical, but I think illegal. But NBC News is reporting this. USAID staff is being told to shred and burn all their classified documents. Quote, the U.S. Agency for International Development is instructing its staff in Washington to shred and burn documents, according to an email obtained by NBC News. The document destruction was set to take place Tuesday, according to an email from Erica Carr, the agency's acting executive secretary. Quote, shred as many documents first and reserve the burn bags for when the shredder becomes unavailable or needs a break, Carr wrote. I worked in government for almost a decade. I've never heard of so much shredding being required that you would know ahead of time that, quote, the shredder would become unavailable or need a break. What is that about?
Right. I actually this morning got a message from somebody who left USAID earlier this year and passed along this email to me. And my response was naturally, is this standard operating procedure? And this individual said no, that they had never heard about burning or shredding of federal records at USAID. But then again, this individual told me they've never heard of the entire agency being gutted and their headquarters at the Ronald Reagan building being shut down. When are documents, burned by the State Department or USAID? Typically at an embassy when it is about to be overtaken, Marines have the authorization as a means of ensuring that classified records and personnel data do not get in the hands of individuals who are seen as threats. They do go and burn documents, but that's not what this situation is here. And I was talking to a national security records lawyer here who has already sent to the National Archives a demand to have the records stop from being destroyed. We should note that this was all taking place today here. In the way that this lawyer put it to me was that this is, number one, a violation of the Federal Records Act, but number two, that there is a standard operating procedure when it comes to processing records. And unless all of these records were digitized or there was a clarity that, for example, records older than 10 years old that have been appropriately deemed by necessary officials as no longer having to be archived, may be terminated, those can then be ultimately destroyed. But this email is very explicit to these individuals who received it. Quote, shred as many documents for...
So, so as far as I know it, that is highly illegal. And first of all, I'm shocked that MSNBC actually...
I know. I thought the same thing when I saw it.
I'm like, hey, what are you guys doing? So usually our own military is given power to burn and shred documents whenever an embassy in another country is getting ready to get overtaken by people that they consider hostile. Therefore, what they're saying is they consider Doge and us, the American people, who should be able to see these things, as hostile.
Why is the woman that ordered this not behind bars now?
I'm pretty sure she got fired, didn't she?
Firing.
There's a lot of behind bars.
Firing is one thing, but she needs to be down in Gitmo with some of the other ones.
Oh, there's another one. Let's circle back around. Travis sent me several clips, and I should have got this one.
I did in kind of a machine gun order. I was just pow, 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 and I'm
Let me see if I can get this queued up here pretty fast. Wait.
Oh, yeah, this one. Okay,
so this kind of goes back to our vaccine conversation a little bit. I think I'm ready.
Yeah.
Let's talk about vaccine development, because we've heard how it happened, obviously, with COVID-19 starting from 2022, and how extraordinary the process was also in terms of the speed. How is development, adoption, and scaling of vaccine going on when it comes to different variants and subvariants? Because this is one of the big concerns as we're all here now and we're discussing. We understand the context, and this is a great deal.
Sure. Good morning, and thank you for having me on the panel. So the great news versus 2020, where we are today, is we have manufacturing capacity. As Seth knows, when the pandemic happened, Moderna had made 100,000 doses in 2019 for the world. And I remember walking after Davos into the office of my head of manufacturing, and I said, how will we make 1 billion doses next year? And he looked at me a bit funny, he said, what? I said, yeah, we need to make $1 billion next year, there's going to be a pandemic. We might not be able to vaccine. So no, he became like, yeah, we need to make $1 billion next year, there's going to be a pandemic.
How did he know there was going to be a pandemic?
So Dr. Roy,
yes.
Again, as you and I go down this, we're trying not to be vaccine hesitant people. You've got the World Economic Forum, who's basically preparing us for the next pandemic and saying we need billions of doses of the next thing that I'm assuming they're wanting to do mRNA with.
Well, and since the United States is out of the World Health Organization now, the president went on, the president of the WHO went on and said that we're out of money. We may have to shut down completely.
Darn
it. Woo! Big deal.
It sounds a lot like the war in Ukraine. We stop paying for it. Magically, it dries up.
Yeah.
I don't know how
that's right.
So kind of right in line with our, I've had several conversations with people I disagree with on some things online, and where I'm aligning with most people who have massive amount of complaints about government over the years. I've gone through phases of early on probably being a much more classic Democrat. I would say not a liberal, JFK liberal, but like more like a Clinton Democrat when I was young, impressionable, and he was this big, figure and a speaker, and government was very interesting to me, and I was kind of like in awe of the whole thing. And throughout my life, kind of went to a Republican side and then into libertarian side, and now I've landed somewhere again, but like nobody can really figure me out. Like if a Republican friend is like, "What are you? Huh? Why are you talking about that?" I'm like, I don't go by the thing; it's the topic. And the only reason I put this whole thing out there is, for me, Doge is the best thing that's ever happened in my lifetime as it pertains to government, and that's because if you want a government that works for you and a bureaucracy to be small that doesn't damage America, this is exactly the type of effort that we need.
Yeah.
And people talking about having scalpels and cutting things out and being more methodical. He basically has 18 months to uncover the things that need to be uncovered. And then you're going to be out of the window being able to do anything. And there's just still a lot of work. But so this is I would call it I don't know if it's R-rated. It's kind of an R.
It's probably PG-13.
So for the next 3 minutes, if you have a kid watching this, I'm playing this just for Dr. Roy.
Just for me.
It's a great song, Doc. This is going to be on your greatest hits.
And it's just got some curse words. There's nothing disturbing in this. It's not anything. And
it probably set off some leftists. Probably some disturbing visuals.
You can turn it off now, or skip 3 minutes ahead, and pick us up on the flip side, because there's an F-bomb in the song. So I'm just going to play
that's
this.
what it is. It's a bunch of F-bombs.
Yeah, it's a bunch of F-bombs. So, Dr. Roy, this is for you.
Thank you.
You fucker! You laughed, you mocked, you shut us down. Call us names, tried to run us out. You pushed too hard, took too much. Now you're the ones who've lost their touch. You rigged the game, you changed the rules. Gaslit the world, played us for fools. But tides have turned, the storm is near. Cry all you want, we're still here. Faithful, fuck around and find out. You tried to rule,
that's a good hook.
But your time ran out. Faithful, the silent will stay quiet now. We're taking back what you burned to the ground. Censorship, lockdowns, all your control. Built your throne on a house of gold.
Those guys are awesome. I don't know them, but those guys are awesome.
I've actually seen that before.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
I thought you'd have shared that with me.
Yeah.
Well, so that's a combination of AI. Obviously, somebody.
Oh, that was straight up AI.
Yeah. But somebody saying.
I don't. The vocals, like, yeah, probably one of those guys. Maybe I don't know, but that's got a good hook. Maybe we should try to reach out to those guys, see if we can use it more often. No, I thought that. I think it's a very catchy song. I think it's pretty well written. Really, I mean, I know the visuals are very AI and very kind of goofy, and it's muscular Trump and muscular Elon and muscular JD, and then you've got Uncle Sam in there rocking out and shredding. I get that that's kind of goofy, but the actual the lyrics, like if you kind of just write them down or just see what they are, I mean it hits to the bone, man.
What are your thoughts on that, Doc?
I mean, you've seen it before, but what do you think?
Yeah, I've seen it before, and it's exactly what we want to do.
And so I think it's a lot for the administration to live up to. I mean, that's
there's gonna be a lot of sit-ups needed to do that.
Oh wait, they got a lot of stuff to catch up on.
Yeah.
Well, I thought we were gonna get more
out of Doc.
Well, I think we maybe got some people back. If we got
I've seen it before, so I, knew what to.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people would be surprised that your XM channel of choice is Octane, because I know I was when I hopped in your car, and Turbo.
Octane, Turbo, and Nitro are the ones. When I go out to walk my dog, I'm listening to Nitro.
Yeah, boy.
Nitro is new and old.
Yeah.
Headbanging. And, we do
I've got my Rush shirt on. I'm a big Rush fan, I mean, that wouldn't be a headbanger, really, but kind of.
Yeah.
It's not metal. It's not metal. It's hard rock, but,
Yeah.
So this is an old clip. Just going to bring out some kind of random clips that we haven't got to use over the last couple of weeks. This I've started following this guy. I somehow Facebook, the algorithm piece of it. If you hover over things a little too long, it'll end up in your feed a lot more. And this is a guy I didn't like right out of the gate, but I've come to kind of listen to some of the things he says, and he's I think he's got some interesting things to say. I think some of our fans might appreciate this.
Stone-faced as Trump honored a 13-year-old black kid with brain cancer who Trump gave his dream of joining the Secret Service.
Thank you, DJ.
It got uglier after the speech when an MSNBC host linked that kid's moment to grown men committing suicide.
I hope he has a long life as a law enforcement officer, but I hope he never has to defend the United States Capitol against Donald Trump's supporters. And if he does, I hope he isn't one of the 6 who loses his life to suicide.
But this isn't just about one speech. It's about the dangerous divide gripping America. So, 2 questions. First, is this something that Republicans do too? And second, what does it reveal about the Democratic Party? First, here's what we saw from the Democrats. Representative Al Green heckled while Trump spoke and got kicked out.
You won the popular vote by big numbers and won counties in our country.
They also held up protest signs. They wouldn't stand for a kid with cancer, a murdered girl, border wins, waist cuts, or a terrorist arrest. At most, some of them clapped. Now, partisanship is normal. In 2009, Republican Joe Wilson heckled Obama.
This too is false. The reforms I'm proposing would not apply to those who are here illegally.
Republicans sat through his healthcare pitch. But when Obama honored Corey Remsburg, a wounded soldier, everyone stood.
Sergeant First Class Corey Remsburg never gives up, and he does not quit. Corey.
Trump spotlighted a kid with cancer, and Democrats sat. Some clapped, but there's a gap. Historically, humanity was more important than party in America. Not anymore. Democrats refuse to stand for anything except negativity. Why? Because their entire identity is opposing Trump. They can't acknowledge a win if his name's on it. Before the speech, 22 Democrats dropped identical videos, like a hive mind on replay. Now, perhaps they think this was unity, but it was groupthink. And the counter argument is that Republicans do this too. And they do, to a degree. But in the past year, Republicans have been critical of Trump. Just last week, there was criticism of how his team handled the Epstein file release. Before that, they were critical of Trump's proposal to take over Gaza. A few months ago, they were critical of his stance on H-1B visas. So I've seen the right both celebrate and criticize Trump, but the left only does the latter. Now, to be clear, some of Trump's behavior didn't help last night. His jab at Elizabeth Warren was petty.
With no end in sight, the United States has sent hundreds of billions of dollars to support Ukraine's defense. Do you want to keep it going for another 5 years? Yeah, you would say Pocahontas says yes.
And yes, Warren attacks him daily in the media. But Trump is president now, and it's time to lead, not react.
All right.
This guy would, I'm surprised that he hasn't been called a traitor to his race.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure he has been.
Yeah.
I've got, that you have that. And I guess the moral for me was there's a lot of things that Trump says and does that I don't agree with. I don't think he should have called her Pocahontas, because he had so many wins in the middle of that whole thing that to me that did seem petty. And what is the most concerning to me as far as looking at it is the hive mind concept, and the virtue signals that these Democrats do in mass that do affect how people respond. They don't listen. They don't listen to what these different things are trying to accomplish. They're just trying to, in this case, I think, protect funding going to Ukraine, and protect USAID and the money trap that is,
because it's going into their pockets.
Well, that's what you have to assume, and so like if that's not what's happening with it, prove me wrong, right?
Yeah.
And instead they don't. They use the hive mind. They use these tricks, and the media. I think you brought something to my attention, or we played it on one of the shows, but like the media. Hundreds, if not thousands, of stations.
Oh, that Hive video, the exact same verbiage,
the same thing, same narrative. I think it was about COVID vaccines or something.
I can't remember what it was.
But anyway, it was that they're parroting the same thing over and over and over again. So you and I will never have the same conversation on a multiple. And you and I will never have the same conversation. But if you get a script and you say you have to read this, and then everybody's going to hear the same thing, there's no thinking in that.
No.
So
wasn't there a song out a long time ago called "Set Fire to the Hive"?
No, but that seems like
I'll have to look that up, because it wasn't very popular, but I think it was there. May have been just the name of a recording.
Well, I mean, I know. So, like locally, if you go back to kind of the peak of COVID, there was a lot of virtue signaling going on online, and people were sharing local hospitals stats and trying to basically virtue signal people into getting vaccines and calling you all kinds of names if you didn't.
And people would go in there and take pictures, and there would be nobody sitting in the waiting room.
Right.
It was crazy, and all the doctors and nurses were making TikToks of them dancing together and not taking care of sick people.
So, of course, the song you were just referring to was by Carnival, which I know Carnival, but it was probably on your Nitro or on Turbo or something. But no, there is a song called "Set Fire to the Hive" by Carnival.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's a rocking song.
Well, I'll have to look it up and play it.
Well, so it's dangerous, and having these people acting in theater and having these, Elon, I forget, anti-Elon's signals and paddles that they had out. This to me, this was one of the things that people called me a conspiracy theorist on. So I wanted to kind of call this out. and it was during the pandemic.
Hey, I'm 38-0 on conspiracy theories.
Released a 500-page report on COVID-19 pandemic. Key findings: COVID-19 likely originated from a lab-related incident in Wuhan, China. Crazy. You get banned from
That's
YouTube
number 38.
for saying that.
Yep.
Banned. Okay,
You get
over
banned from
$200 billion
YouTube
in relief funds lost
ivermectin.
to fraud, with criminals exploiting weak oversight. Prolonged lockdowns and arbitrary mandates cause severe harm, economic devastation, mental health crises, and historic learning loss, while lacking robust scientific support. Policies ignored natural immunity, pushing mandates that eroded trust and harmed public perception of science. Absolutely. WHO and CDC compromised by political interference, offering inconsistent, unscientific guidance that fueled public distrust, and the key players included federal agencies, and Cuomo's administration actively obstructed oversight efforts and hid critical evidence.
Christ.
Select Subcommittee on Coronavirus Pandemic basically said all the conspiracy theorists were correct. Every single one of them. No repercussions, no retractions, no apology from Rachel Maddow. None of it. The House.
I wanted to share that simply because what we try to do in this for me, when I come to the table in this program, is to listen to a lot of the same people that I was listening to whenever I knew that the lab leak happened, and they were saying it was a bat, something that happened in a wet market from bats. That was a lie. That was a lie from the beginning, and it was hard to even fathom why the lie was so necessary for the story until several years later, and we get into the basically the video where they're talking about where the DOD was part of the origin of the creation of the shot, and so it was very important that it had to seem like a natural occurrence versus something that came out of a lab, which we happen to give money to. So they had to kill that narrative to be trusted on the rest of it, and this has been buried still. Another, has that ever been on a local news channel that thing came out that all these lies happened, and the people that you might have made fun of, not you, but the people that the media told you to make fun of, and if you didn't rush out and get the shot, that you were going to kill grandma and you're putting everybody at risk. I mean, it's the same thing that happens, that people don't know how to respond to it. So they get scared, they listen to the hive mind, and they just go along because they don't want to be an outcast. They don't want to be that person that sticks their neck out, and that's the type of people that we need. Those are the people that we have to trust more moving forward. I'm not saying me, because all I'm doing is looking at people that I've gotten to trust more and more because they don't lie to me.
They're never going to apologize or say that they'll lose their credibility.
Well, they don't need to, because their stations and their money is drying up, and their viewership is drying up, and more people are listening to the Rogan types and going to them for signals. Go ahead.
This is part of this is why I'm even here. Why I'm volunteering my time to this is because my grandmother was caught up in all this. She never got COVID, but she died during COVID from being lonely, pretty much. None of us could go see her. None of us. She wasn't nursing. She was in a facility, and they wouldn't let us in there. We got to see her through a tablet 45 minutes a week on a Friday afternoon, and she died while she was in. And they wouldn't let us when she was kind of on her deathbed, but conscious. We still couldn't go see her. It wasn't until they were absolutely certain that she was going to die, and she was already in a, I don't know what you would call it, dog. Like just she was out. She was no. She was like she was never conscious again. Like they wouldn't let her go.
Coma.
I guess a coma.
An induced coma.
It wasn't induced. She just never woke up again, and they didn't let us come in there until she was at that point. And I'm getting mad right
just
now
thinking about it because that's a closure. So, and that ties right back into how our kids' lives were changed. And, I was going to the school and asking we've got a new admin now, but I'm like, okay, we're making these decisions. How are we tracking it? How are we going to know that we're not doing more damage in how we're responding to this thing moving forward and doing what we're doing? Like, what are the signals? When's enough going to be enough? And nobody could answer me with anything.
Anybody who was the class of 2020 just had that whole thing ripped away from them as far as graduation and prom. And I have a niece she was the class of 2020, and she didn't get to do anything. So anyway, so kind of going sideways, that it wasn't that one, but earlier in the show today, you played a bit of a clip of a Rogan with Elon, the more recent one. Do you happen to have? Are you planning on showing the clip where he's talking about spouse trading habits and like insider trading and that whole thing, where he talks about he's going to get he'll get killed if he goes into it any further?
I'll try to find that one.
I don't know.
About the members of Congress that are trading with inside information, and their spouses are doing it. That's the one of the ways that a lot of them do it is that the spouse does it. So it's.
But Rogan tries to pry Elon for a little more information, because Elon eventually says at some point, he goes, "Well, that's not they're not making most of their mony that way." And then Rogan comes back and he's like, "Well, how are they making their money?" And Elon starts to stutter a little bit, and he's like, "If I want to live, I will be assassinated if I tell you anymore."
Yeah, he literally said that on that same Rogan. Well, I'll try to find that.
But anyway,
you know what's happening. All that money that USAID sends out, there's a big chunk of it that comes back to the pockets of people who are in Congress and also in the bureaucracy.
He talks about having to play the game to like not give away too much, like not get too deep into it, so that maybe they're going to lose their money, but nobody actually gets outed because he wants to live. Like I don't know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
That podcast from I think it was about a week ago, the Rogan with Elon on it. Everybody in the United States should watch that.
Absolutely.
That is a great podcast.
Yeah,
that
I agree
episode.
with it. And I'll try to come up with that. Cause if you want to keep riffing, I can probably find that clip. I'm sure it was one of the highest shared one. Let's see.
Like if it's somebody who cut it out. Yeah, it's pretty wide. There's a lot. He talks about a lot of things. He talks about on the in that show, and but that one really, when he starts talking about the the Doge and the things that he's found and what he can't say because he doesn't want to be assassinated, it's pretty crazy, actually. I mean, but you believe him when he's saying it. Because Elon doesn't really fluff things. He just kind of says it how it is, and I think he is kind of maybe on the spectrum. I think we've talked about that a little bit, and you can tell that he's afraid for his life. I know that's. I mean, you've said that. That's why I don't mean to say I think you're on the spectrum, but you have said on the show numerous episodes that you're kind of there, and I think he is too. And he's so high functioning that I mean he's just like everybody. Anybody, a lot of other folks that are part of that. That are on the spectrum, but he also I think he has like a bit of Asperger's a little bit, or he doesn't like fluff things. He just says what he's going to say. He says it how it is, and you can tell in what he's saying that he is afraid for his life if he's going to go any further. Like
let me tell you, if I probably am on the spectrum, but there were a lot of guys that I worked with who were a whole lot more autistic than I am.
That wasn't a knock at you, Doc. I just meant with Elon, he just doesn't sugarcoat anything. He just kind of says it how it is. And at that moment, he was saying,
I'm kind of that way.
Well, and at that moment, he was pretty much saying, I can't stop prying, because they're friends outside of the show, And at one point, he gives him a look like, just shut up and let's move on to something else. Like I can't tell you what I'm talking about. Like anymore.
That's right.
Or at least not on the air. I mean, I guess he could tell him, when they're not recording the show or something, but.
Well, I wouldn't tell him
Rogan?
No, I wouldn't tell Rogan because, Elon's right. He might get assassinated.
He didn't say might. He was like, I will. Like, I've told you enough if I say any more. Because so apparently there is more, and it's probably USAID funds or it's some other kickback or something.
No.
Like
I mean, I can tell you that I can give you the breakdown of it. Basically, he was already talking about all the USAID funds, but it came more back around to how the Senate and people in government can make $178,000 a year and end up multiple millionaires. He's like, if I told you about how that happens, I would be a target.
But it was beyond the insider trading because he had just he was talking about the insider trading.
But it was about the money.
But it was beyond the insider trading.
We go back to hush money and push money.
Yep.
And there's a lot of money coming into those people, and where they get it from, they don't have to tell anybody where they're getting it from. But you're absolutely right. AOC was a barista before she was elected to Congress, and now her, she had a overall amount of $16,000 in her savings, and then all of a sudden she's got like 3 or 4 million or more.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I'm sorry.
You probably have to just pull up the full show and then
I'll
just get
find
to
it.
it and scrub it. We could do it the next episode or something.
Remind me to just share a clip. I had a clip on one of my notes from a prior podcast. I thought we watched it during a prior podcast. So I don't know.
No, because he just had that episode like 4 or 5 days ago. We haven't met since he had that.
No, it was 12 days ago.
But the Elon Rogan was 12 days ago?
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like it was only like a week ago.
It says right there in the thing is 12 million views 12 days ago.
Okay, my bad. But we still haven't had I don't think we've had a podcast since then.
No, you're right. So I know I had that, and so I'm sorry not to have that one queued
That's
up.
all right. I was just
I failed you, Travis.
I didn't send it to you earlier. You had shown that, and I was that's just that's why everybody's afraid of the Doge up there on Capitol Hill.
Okay, so I'm going to lighten it up a little bit. There's a clip. I'm going to share a clip here that's more of a humorous thing, and you have to be a certain age to really appreciate.
Is that a meeting with the Bobs?
Yeah, this is Office Space. This is an
nice.
Office Space clip, and so I don't know if maybe Dr. Roy hadn't seen this one.
No.
Typical day for you. Yeah, great. Well, I generally come in at least 15 minutes late. I use the side door. That way Lumberg can't see me. And after that, I just sort of space out for about an hour. Space out? Yeah. I just stare at my desk. But it looks like I'm working. I do that for probably another hour after lunch, too. I'd say in a given week, I probably only do about 15 minutes of real, actual work. Peter, would you be a good sport and indulge us and just tell us a little more? The thing is, Bob, it's not that I'm lazy. It's that I just don't care. Don't care? It's a problem of motivation, all right? Now, if I work my ass off and Initech ships a few extra units, I don't see another dime. So where's the motivation? And here's something else, Bob. I have 8 different bosses right now. Beg your pardon? 8 bosses. 8? 8, Bob. So that means that when I make a mistake, I have 8 different people coming by to tell me about it. That's my only real motivation, is not to be hassled. That and the fear of losing my job. But you know, Bob, that'll only make someone work just hard enough not to get fired.
I feel like that one.
That's perfect.
That one hit that hit Doge right in the head right there, man.
Yeah.
I love that.
Tell me 3 things that you've done.
5.
Or 5. Is it 5? Sorry.
Five
I'm sorry.
things
5
that you've
Tell me
done.
5 things. Work just hard enough to not lose your job.
In that 15 minutes.
People are so pissed off about that because they haven't been doing anything. They're sitting there drawing a big paycheck. The average federal employee makes $120,000 a year.
Damn.
And the average regular normie makes about $60,000 a year.
Oh, I can't imagine be that high even.
Yeah.
I would think the average would be much lower than
average,
that, like 45 or something.
You got
the millionaire billionaires in there too or something, but
well, yeah, and the HVAC guys that are making $150,000 a year too.
Okay.
Because HVAC is big money.
I feel like 60 is too high, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. Well, somebody said that, so it may be wrong.
I got another clip. Hopefully this one's queued up right.
Aren't we going to talk about bird flu?
Yeah, I can come back to that. Just
Okay.
let me play this one. And this, I guess. Well, if you want to talk about bird flu now, I can save this. Save this.
I'm going to chime in for just a second. Median, just because I gronked it here. Median individual income for working age people, $39,982. So $40,000.
Okay.
Households average $78,500.
Yeah.
That's as of 2023. Anyway,
it was probably out there, but
bird flu.
Yeah, let me talk about bird flu. A lot of people were saying that bird flu was a fraud. They were saying, how come only chickens and turkeys are being taken with that? And it's not true. There have been like 1,500 sandhill cranes that have died in Indiana alone. And sandhill cranes are such beautiful birds. If you've never seen one fly, they're They're enormous. Their wings are 6 feet across, and I have you guys saw that, I think, in my downstairs. I have a sandhill crane sitting on a thing. So they're beautiful animals, and I hate to see that many of them die. But all sorts of other animals and even non-birds are coming down with bird flu. There are some rabbits that had it, and maybe even some swine. But, the Biden administration's reaction to that was to kill 100 million chickens. And that's why the cost of eggs went up. But in the last 13 days, the price of eggs have gone down $2 per dozen in the last 13 days.
Really?
I was on a Nextdoor. I don't know if you have Nextdoor or not, but they were tearing up that it's around $7 a dozen. There's one place here in town they were saying that was down to about $3.50. But my issue is that a lot of people try to blame that on political administrations or something, and it's due to. Well, it's not just it's due to bird flu, but it's due to culling entire flocks just because a couple of birds have bird flu.
You've got a couple of birds that have got the sniffles, and you
kill them all.
Kill them all, 100 million. But there are other types of birds that are getting that. Bald eagles have gotten it. There's some raptors that have gotten it besides eagles. I guess eagles are considered raptors. But, the geese in this town, they've found some dead geese over at the
local park.
The
local hospital,
park.
State hospital. Yeah.
State hospital. But all the geese that I see on the east side there are very healthy. And I haven't seen a single one of them that didn't look totally healthy. So they're sticking around, but it is a problem because if you get one sick bird in one barn full of chickens, within 3 or 4 days, they're all going to have it.
So I was reading an article earlier today about this specific thing and how they're trying to figure out alternative ways to take care of the situation beyond the culling of the entire flock.
Yeah.
And what it says here is they're discussing such strategies as targeted depopulation, vaccinations, and even the relocation of wetlands and bodies of water to lure virus-carrying wild birds away from poultry farms.
Sure.
Kind of scares me when they start to vaccinate the birds. And
I don't like that because, they vaccinate them and then kill them, and the next thing you know, they're Kentucky Fried Chicken.
But the mass culling is good. I mean, I guess I get it; they have to, but that's great. Well, I go back to Chernobyl. They to every animal in the radiation zone, they killed every single one of them, whether it was a plant or a pet, a cow, whatever. They just went through and exterminated them all.
And that's not able to be passed on. If you get exposure to radioactivity, it can make a problem if people are too close to you, but you're going to die real quick. Marie Curie is buried in a lead coffin that's several inches thick because she still has a lot of radiation, and she's been dead for 100 years.
Almost everybody that was in that reactor area and the firefighters that went to try to put out the initial explosion fire all were buried in mass graves with lead, lead-lined caskets, all put in a single area, and then they concreted that hole instead of filling it in with dirt.
Well, the United States Energy Group has never said how many people died in the Manhattan Project, but it was more than 20 from being exposed to the radioactivity. They had no idea. There was one guy that was working in a lab, and it slipped. He was messing with it. It slipped, and he ended up dying. I mean, because of the amount of radioactivity they got, his arms were covered with blisters, and he died within 3 or 4 days.
It's also a good song by Rush, Manhattan Project, just so you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it is. And it's about they talk about the pilot of the Enola Gay and everything in that song.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
I actually met the granddaughter of the pilot of the Enola Gay. She was
Really?
Yeah, she was a second lieutenant in the, and she was at the base that I was, and was, she was being trained to be a missile operator. And
there you go.
Yeah, because her name was, I don't remember what her first name was, but I saw her
name patch
tag
or whatever. Yeah,
name tag, and it was Tibbetts. And I said, "Are you related?" And she said, "Yeah, he's my granddad."
That's wild.
Yeah.
Chad, you're awfully quiet over there, buddy.
Well, I was trying to find the clip that you wanted about with Rogan and Musk, and YouTube just is terrible.
That's
like
all right.
they do a whole transcript of the show, like, and it, it's right there, and I'm trying to do a search to see where he was
what
talking about
timestamp or whatever.
and they won't even do it.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Just forget it for now.
Yeah. So the only other thing, and I think
Be here with us. Be present.
be present.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's so much stuff that's gone on. I mean, it's like trying to just get to the heart of getting everyone on the same page of what we're trying to accomplish. Like, and why, trying to, I catch people online trying to talk people out of, getting upset. And there's certain people that are just they're going to argue against anything that Trump does, no matter what.
Yeah, I usually block those people.
Well, and I don't want to, because there's some really intelligent people. And there's one guy specifically that I even did a podcast with. There's actually a couple guys who just went full Trump derangement syndrome. And when I say that, I'm not saying they can think of nothing positive if it's attached to his name, or if it happens while he's president, it can't be good.
Yeah.
And I just I don't understand it. I can't, and we're talking about ways to, potentially make the country better for our kids. And I think that's a noble effort. And you got people like Elon, who's risking his life. Trump, who literally was shot at a couple times. He's had many more attempts at people, trying to make it happen.
Oh, they just shot a guy recently.
Oh,
you mean
who is trying to get into the White House?
Yeah. They didn't talk about that one very much.
No, I didn't see that.
Isn't that funny how the mainstream media, if any Democrat would have had an assassination attempt, like if Obama would have gotten shot in the ear, we would hear about that
every day,
24/7. Trump people are deranged lunatics, and the people on the left are the ones that are, shooting at Elon's Tesla stores,
burning them, like in
burning
France or somewhere. They burned an entire dealership down almost.
Yeah, and so it's like people are unhinged, and so at some level, you can't cure it all. You try to put good information in front of people and give them a chance, but it's like, you only have so much time on the planet.
I get a lot of pushback from people who, for instance, let's just say Doge. I'll bring up the debt clock and I'll say, hey, look, he's probably over 100 billion by this point. I haven't looked at the clock for a couple weeks. I think the last show was last time. But he's just lying. How do you know that he's really saving that money? How do you know that he's, okay, so are you telling me that all media lies? Because I can kind of get behind you with that a little bit, but at some point you just kind of have to trust if you want to believe anything that you see on the news, read about, watch a podcast, whatever. At some point you got to believe in something. So where are we here? And so I've been getting a lot of people just trying to tell me that the money he's saying that he's saving, or the stuff that he's saying, all this is just lies.
There's just people that still don't understand that the media lies. They just don't get it.
Well, yeah.
The major stories that they've been pushing for the last 10 years.
They wouldn't do that.
Give me a good one. Give me one that they got right. I mean, do that for me. We can talk about Russiagate and all that jazz. We can talk about COVID and that whole thing.
Hunter's laptop.
The laptop story, which affected the election. There's so many different things and they got nothing right. There was no fix. There was no, hey man, and there was no when Trump got shot at, there was no the media coming in. Let's dial down the rhetoric.
The only media that I did see was he didn't really get shot. Like, look at his ear now. His ear now is just fine. And blah blah. And it's just like, what the hell?
Yeah. So I mean, like it's we talk about the MK Ultra mind control, that people are just in some kind of trance, and I have a hard time thinking that it's anything other than that.
You know what's really wild is, and why I am sort of thankful for 2020 is that before 2020, I kind of did believe in my news outlets a little bit more than I do now. No. I mean, I'll admit it. I didn't really know any better. I didn't see anything that really just stuck out as, that's just a blatant lie. And it may have been a little before that I realized it, but once that whole COVID rhetoric and like the wet market and just so many plot holes in the stories came up that I think that has created so many more people that question everything.
Well,
the question.
You guys were kids when Reagan was president, and were you even born when Reagan was president?
Oh yeah,
1980. Yeah.
Well, not 80. I was born in 84.
I was 72.
Okay.
I was 72.
That was,
He was second Reagan presidency. He was born in 80.
Yeah. So it's just a little bit, just barely.
The media was beating up Reagan just as bad as they could, and he was taking them toe to toe, and telling them he told them right to their face that, that's not correct.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I actually trust people more and gain respect and credibility for more the faster a person can say they were wrong about something.
Yeah.
Like you can quickly say, man, I screwed that one up. And it doesn't matter what it is, but the media just, and I think they're beholden to their masters to the point where they can't tell the truth, because the truth, it's one thing if your real boss cares about ratings and it's all about ratings, and people aren't going to listen to you if you lie. Over time, you're going to lose more and more viewership. Whenever you start looking at
look at CNN.
You start looking at the fact that they lose listeners to the point where they're irrelevant, really, but they still get to get up and do their parroting.
Sure.
They acknowledge nothing. They course correct not at all. And to me, that kind of comes to the clip I was going to cue up a few minutes ago, and I wanted to say this because I was I've been very nice to Tucker. I've given him showed a lot of clips of his. I like a lot of the interviews that he's done over time. But when I do hear something that he needs to be critiqued on, I think we need to say it when it happens.
Sure.
He made it very clear that he had a strong relationship with Trump. I think if he sends a text message to Donald Trump, Donald Trump's going to respond to him in fairly quick amount of time. And this whole thing with JFK files and the Epstein list and all these other things that were big campaign promises that they were going to just roll it out. You're going to know who's on the Epstein list. You're going to know the JFK file, assassination files are going to be opened up. The truth's going to come out. Boom, here you go. This is a good clip right here, and I'm going to give somebody I don't normally give credibility to or credos to some credit. And PBD podcast, it's not about him. I think he sets up the clip. I hope
Chris
I got it right.
texted me saying, hey, Tucker and I did a podcast together. And they're on the podcast. One of the topics that comes up is why the JFK files hasn't been released. And Chris asks Tucker the question, like, who is holding this up? And Tucker doesn't want to drop the name. He finally drops the name. Rob, if you can play this clip. And this has to do for the community of people that want to know what's going on with Epstein, that want to know what's going on with JFK files. All those promises. Yep. That's this clip. Go for it, Rob.
Okay, so I've always thought that. And then in January, there was a scramble over who's going to get what jobs in the new administration. And at one point, there was someone who was being discussed for a job in the intel world, and a member of the SSCI, the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, Senate Intel Committee, went to the people making the decision and said, you cannot hire this person because this person will be certain to push for the release of the JFK files. So this is in 2025, less than 2 months ago, and you have a sitting member of the United States Senate whose main goal is to keep those files secret? And then you have to ask yourself, what is
Why?
that?
Yeah.
Exactly. Why?
Yeah.
Why? Why?
Were they
And
even alive?
now, of course, no one was alive. It was 62 years ago.
I know.
And by the way, the institution, no one could even tell you who the CIA director was. And who, do you remember the name of the CIA director? John McCone, I think, 1963. But that person is like completely lost to history, except a specialist. And the CIA has already been through 50 years ago, the Church Committee hearings, 1975, where we sort of know that they were assassinating people, dosing people with acid, all this stuff. It's like the CIA has already been discredited. So if you're telling me that 6 weeks ago, a member of the United States Senate was trying to keep someone out of a job in order to keep these files secret, that is to protect the CIA, I don't believe that for a second.
So wait a minute. Here's the part I don't
understand. So who's that person exerting the pressure?
But you are uniquely qualified to get this answer, because one of us can call the President of the United States right now and ask him. And the other one is me. So why don't you know?
That's a great question.
It's the only kind I ask.
So what I brought to it was the knowledge that a member of the Senate Intel Committee, I'm not guessing, called over and said, you cannot appoint this person.
So why don't you expose that person, first of all, so we can start chasing
Tom
after
Cotton
him?
of Arkansas.
Boom! Tom Cotton?
Yes, correct.
Wow. And did you ask him?
I haven't. No, I haven't asked him.
What the hell's going on with you?
I'd like to. And
kind of makes people suspicious of you, by the way.
Because
if you know that Tom Cotton said you can't pick this person
that
because
is correct,
and then you didn't go to him and find out why.
Well, I need to sit down with him. I'm not sure that he'll do an interview with me.
With you?
I'm waiting.
You are like the spirit animal of that administration.
No, but it's a fair look. It's a fair question. It's a totally fair question, and the answer is, I hadn't thought to do that. And
so I highly recommend this PBD podcast. This is just a clip. It's like 15 minutes long, and it's good. But what it does to me is I try not to trust anyone too much. Just because I don't want to like expect anyone to just be telling me the truth and give me the everything that we're looking for. And to me, Tucker got caught with his pants down right here. And of all people, Andrew Cuomo, who's somebody that historically haven't I don't really like his whole shtick. He's no longer a CNN. I guess they fired him or whatever happened. But I just, somebody like Tucker does have the power to ask questions.
Would you like a quote from Mr. Cotton?
I heard. Yeah, they talk about it in the clip. Go ahead and shoot it out there.
I mean, his rebuttal is just that it's false, completely false. I have no problem releasing the JFK files. Tucker could have called or texted me. I mean, there's really not much to it, but I mean, he's saying that Tucker lied ultimately.
Well, not necessarily. He may have gone to Tucker, not to Tucker, but he may have gone to the president and said, you can't hire this person because they are got something in their background.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Tucker did say it was a fact that Cotton came to him and said, you can't hire this guy because he's going to release the JFK.
Yeah.
So he said it, whether he got the context wrong or he misspoke or I don't know what he got bad information.
And Cotton could be lying too. Like I'm not saying,
Well,
yeah, right. Politicians could lie.
Well, I mean, I think Cotton is fairly well respected, but on both sides, like I think Tucker and Cuomo both say that they have respect for him because he goes on all the different shows on both sides and have conversations.
Yeah.
He's civil. This surprised both of them. They truly, both of them were like that's shocking. So, I mean, there's definitely, there's something there. There's some there. And, it's going to be a real stain on Trump to me if some heads don't start rolling in this realm and some truth doesn't come out. Especially, I know RFK is going to be torqued about it. They had this theory, if you listen to the whole thing, is what if Trump went to RFK and said, I have access to these files and I will let you see it all, but we can't release them to the public. Do you think that would be enough for RFK? Because RFK would have the answers to the questions that he has, or is it more of a moral issue for RFK at this point that he says he thinks everyone needs to hear the story? And me being attached and following Dr. Jack Cruz, as you know, the JFK piece of this conversation that he has on a very regular basis ties to the American public not being able to heal unless they understand the JFK story because of its ties to the DOD, the ties to Big Pharma, going back to Louisiana, the things that we've already covered on these podcasts. So I'm leaning towards Jack. This is making more sense with the Jack Cruz side of things, because you still got people in the government who are trying to protect DOD, trying to protect all these things, because once they're revealed, you are going to lose a lot of credibility.
I wonder why Trump doesn't want them released, though. Like, why he doesn't just push to release
There's a lot of people in the CIA that need to be kicked out of there.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's, you know, I had a colleague that left the airport. He left the Air Force, retired from the Air Force, and went immediately to the CIA. And he said, I can't tell you at all what I'm doing, because you know, everything's super classified, and you're not. I had a high classification then, but I wasn't that high classified. And he just said, it's a good job. I'm making more money than I was as a colonel in the Air Force.
Yeah, so I mean, the golden duct tape, the golden handcuffs comes into play.
That's right.
You saying that actually made me think of when you were talking about how the news, you know, never reported on anything, and how they're all, you know, the rhetoric and whatever. I wonder how many of them actually have the golden handcuffs and the golden. I wonder if it's more if they want to keep their job, they have to report the things. That you know, I think that's more their thing.
Well,
too.
the editors of it's the same that goes to the editors of newspapers. So no articles get out without approval that somebody has clearance. Like, you're not going to badmouth this pharma company. You're not going to badmouth this whatever.
We'll lose the marketing funds.
Big ad revenue.
I know that from my own family, because I have a relative by marriage that is executive editor of a well-known left-leaning magazine. And I've heard her talking on the phone to somebody, and she said, "You will not publish this."
Yeah.
I had no idea what they were talking about, but I knew what they were doing.
Well, I've got some more, another good Doge clip.
All right.
Just because I know these things are not things that make it to the mainstream media very often. I don't know if you've got it muted or not. I don't know how this is going to queue up. Go ahead and mute it for a second, just so I know that I'm ready. I think it is muted.
Fuck around and find out.
I'm
sorry. I have to give a.
You got to give a warning.
I'm sorry. Faithful. I'll just say that then.
Unless you're Dr. Roy and you're mad at me, and then you
That's
can
true.
just tell me to shut the. So this
I haven't done that.
I know. I was
like
trying
3 months.
I was trying earlier to get it, and I couldn't.
But I think he's like the Hulk. He's not. It's not. He just gets mad. I think he's always angry. And it's just no. I'm just kidding.
Who, me?
No, that's just what the Hulk said. That's what.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna play this clip, and then we can riff on it a little bit, because I find it very fascinating.
So the concept was, I'm sitting with the president, and the costs of the post office are like, it loses $7 billion. And he said, can you do something with it? And I said, sure. So I saw him the next day, he goes, okay, what do you got? You know, he gives me the whole 24 hours to figure it out. And I said, well, the Commerce Department does the census. And we spend $40 billion every 10 years doing the census. And that means we hire 625,000 people. And they go and they rent cars and gas, and you pay them food. And you know what they do? They go to every household in America and count the people. What department do we already have that already employs 625,000 people? It's got cars, already has gas, goes to every household. Can you imagine saying to your postman, can you count the people in the house? What day could he do the census? Monday? Could he double check it on Tuesday? How about Wednesday? He goes every day. So we can only save $40 billion or $4 billion a year, and we'll do a better job. And you know what else we can do with the post office? They can go to your house when you have a baby and give you the form for Social Security. And the 20,000 Social Security offices that we have, we just don't need them. We actually can do real customer service. Go right to your house. Someone died, here's the forms, you can fill it out. I'll bring it to your house. Customer service. Why? Because we've got those people. Let's use the assets of the government to make us better and save us money. We can be smart, you know. We're loud. So the concept was...
Claps and cheers, please.
Oh, wait, hang on.
Can we do it? So I've got friends and people in Facebook land who, you know, they work for Social Security, Social Security Administration. They work for here. They're fearful that they're going to lose their job. There's all this stuff going on, and at some level, I do definitely. I I care about people that I know that could potentially be affected. At the same time, as someone that's been in business and owned businesses for a very long time, you've been in business for a long time, owning your own. You've been around businesses. You know how
My
things
family
work.
has a lot of business.
You have to. It is not. Everybody's eating lollipops and feeling good about it every day. There's tension. You got to make payroll. There's
third mortgage on the house.
There's hard decisions that you got to make about telling your staff what they have to do with their own medical decisions. I mean, there's things that just aren't hunky-dory when you're outside of the Fed. So I'm sorry if an idea comes along and makes things potentially more efficient. But I'm not really that sorry. Like we have people, we're trying to justify. I love our mailman. We wave, we talk, we whatever. He's a good dude, and I'm sure his family loves him, and I'm sure they rely on him for the job. I don't want him to lose his job.
Right. But
at the same time, if he can do one more thing and save $4 billion a year, then that's if they're losing $7 billion, and I don't think anybody expects or necessarily wants the USPS to make money. I mean, we want be able to mail things for cheap. I mean, that helps us as a society. Right. I'm not trying to make it a UPS. We've got a UPS already.
Right.
You know,
but a break even would kind of be nice.
Well,
or
I mean,
somewhere
as close
in that,
as you can.
Yeah, somewhere in that
Just
arena. Yeah.
Don't spend money on a census department.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. I never thought of that before.
And you know, is that going to create a lot of extra work for them? I don't think so.
And they already have that. They know. They've written it in a little piece of paper that's inside my mailbox.
Yeah, who all's there?
Who all's there?
Yeah. So I mean, they already know, and then if they just drop the form off to every mailbox or to hand, and they're like, "This is due back, and you need to do this."
We might need to hire a few more mail people, but that would get rid of a lot. You know,
they're
Social
delivering
Security
mail every day.
Well, I know, but if they've got to worry about certain forms or this, that, or the other, it may require a little more.
There might need to be an
one
admin.
more piece of paper in the mailbox.
Well, but I mean, if you need to take the time to stop and actually talk to somebody about, okay, this needs to be back, and blah blah blah.
You got to do something with the census data,
unless you set up the form to say all that information, which you could absolutely do that. You know,
you still got to do the info.
The forms. The forms are like that. You say how many people live in your house, and you fill it out.
I know. I filled one out.
Yeah.
It's not rocket surgery.
No, rocket surgery.
Yeah, so I think
it's not brain science.
I think we could even figure it out. So I mean, basically, it's checking some boxes and doing a count.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, ultimately, you know, we've got all this rigmarole coming up with the Social Security numbers. Who, you know, there's people in there.
Oh, I had a huge fight online with somebody about that.
Over 300 years old.
Social Security. Well, but I was talking about how really I think the best. It would unfortunately we can't do it because our society's been so tapped into Social Security that it has to be there now. But if somehow we could just dissolve it and I could take my money, and maybe they require me to take that money that I would normally put into it and actually put it into some type of retirement. But if I could take that money, put it in my own retirement, I would make way more money than the money that I would get.
Oh yeah,
I've seen pictures of that. People said, you know, if you put $30,000 a year or $28,000 or whatever they take out of your pay, if you put that in in the Dow, you'd make a whole lot more money.
Well,
and you'd be able to control it.
Well, and the reality of it is, what most people don't finish the thought. Everything that you both said is accurate. And if you're married, your spouse gets a little bit more money when you die, but not very much. You don't get both Social Securities.
No.
So if you have money in an account and you die, there should be a big plump of money that we can just say, okay, now this is yours.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than, now you get $200 more per month or something stupid.
There has to be enough people paying money in when I deserve mine.
There's no
I deserve mine in 25 years. There may not be enough people putting money in.
That's right. Yeah. That's a problem because they've got, all the people in my age group are leaning on their Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
And
when you got climate Nazis scaring people out of having kids because they're saying every person that breathes is killing the planet.
Sure.
I mean, a bunch of nonsense. So we're 100% accurate in being concerned about whether Social Security
money that I get every month is not the same money that I put into the Social Security.
So I mean, I think the real smart conversation to have right here is, people want some guarantee that there's going to be money for them at the end of the rainbow. So what I would say is have a really strong conversation with economists and investors and whatever, and have it out full transparent. Here's what you get from Social Security. Here's a program that we could put together that is more transparent, that we can all look at how much money we're putting into it, where it's going, the fact that it's there, and make it transferable upon death.
401ks and self-employed people and all that.
Well, and that's where I was saying maybe because some people don't put money into a 401k or an IRA or any type of. So, I mean, and companies used to have pensions where it wasn't even something that you questioned. But I mean, even if somehow we were required, like that money still got pulled out of our paycheck and put, like we would designate where that would go or something, but it couldn't come to us.
Bitcoin.
Well, no, I mean like, you know, it's almost a required 401k.
If it just goes into a checking account that you can't touch, you're probably
and you get 0.5% interest. You're going to make more money.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, that's just.
But
the reality.
if something was done in that regard, but the problem, and what I'm saying is the problem now is if I get my money instead of it going to the Social Security, then there's going to be people in your age range, Doc, that will then no longer get their money. Like they can't survive that way. So I don't know how we wean that system off. But if I am all of a sudden tomorrow given control over the funds of mine that I make, you know, from my employer that go to Social Security, if I get control over that and I will end up getting that, then there's going to be people that aren't going to get their Social Security anymore.
That's right. And, you know, the people that, I don't know where I was going. There are a lot of people whose jobs do not offer them an IPA or 401(k)
IRA. Sorry, he said IPA. I was like, yes.
IRA. I was only
401k. IRA.
427.
You do the IRA.
Well,
I don't know why the names escaping me now.
You know, as a small business, I could not give my people 401ks. I simply didn't have extra money. I was living paycheck to paycheck.
Well, so you can't match it, but I mean, they can still create a 401k. There's, you know, they can still get a. I'm going to say a financial advisor, but it doesn't even really require them.
It's called an IRA,
Roth IRA, and now you can put in like $7,500 a year or something.
Yeah,
whatever it is. Yeah. So
anyway,
sorry. I don't know.
I was just going off on a Social Security. You brought up Social Security, but you were talking about how 300-year-olds were still getting paid.
Yeah, and not 300s.
I know that's what he said.
130 years are still getting paid, and a lot of dead people. They caught one guy who was getting. He had 38 different checks that were coming to 38 different addresses. But he was getting the money on those.
Whoa.
How was he? Wow.
And basically he stole.
So he had fraudulent accounts.
Yeah, fraudulent accounts.
The money was going into a bank, probably a national bank that you don't have to go down to the corner and see anyone.
Now you can, I mean, my bank, I can picture deposit.
Yeah.
And who actually reviews that? Does anybody really review that? I mean, there may be. I don't know.
Nah, not really.
Yeah.
I mean, I could do the signature on the back of my check different every time, and as long as it comes in through my IP.
I guess that's true. Or you can actually sign a check over to another individual.
And he wasn't even doing that. He was signing the name and putting them into a bank account. If it said JoJo $650 a month, then he would sign it JoJo and he would put it into one.
Was there one main account, or did JoJo have his own account and Steve had his own account?
Yeah, they had.
So he had an
accounts,
individual account for each one. Okay,
but he could withdraw from those.
Yeah, he was probably a signer or something, or secondary on every one of them or something.
Sure.
Anyway, yeah.
I don't have any more clips that I'm going to share today. I love this conversation.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we would.
I've been looking over our notes here that we created before Doc got here, and I think you've hit all of them.
Yeah, I think we did a pretty good job there.
Yeah.
Well, moving back to the Postal Service, wouldn't it be better if we privatized the Postal Service?
Wasn't that what the UPS is?
Yeah, that's what UPS is, but that's doing a lot of. It's not taking care of all the trash that you get in. About, I would say 80% of what I get in my mailbox is trash.
See, we're probably not that high. We do get marketing stuff and like things that look like whatever. So it looks like a credit card, but it's just somebody trying to get us to sign up for a credit card, whatever.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that, but I mean, I think then kind of like either the clip said or maybe you said, Chad, the problem is going to, I think it was the clip, the problem then is going to be if I want to mail something to somebody, it's going to be astronomically more expensive.
Yeah, and like some of it, like I think this would be a good, robust think tank conversation because I mean, I can
maybe
see
not astronomical.
I can see, you know, there's certain things that need to be mailed by the government or whatever that basically are prepaid postage, and so I mean, I think there's, you know, I don't know. I think it probably is a pretty good argument to have on both sides. You could probably steel man and straw man both sides. I mean, I think someone with the idea of making it private should come in and say, here's what we could do.
Yeah.
You know, how many, because at the end of the day, you're going to say how many people we're going to lay off or how many, you know, how are we going to make it more, how are we going to make it more efficient?
Yeah.
And anytime you talk about laying people off, then you got all the unions and everything coming out after.
Right.
So,
and that's the big problem is if they're already losing that much money with the Postal Service, how is somebody going to make it profitable? And how much is it going to cost the user, whoever's going to use the USPS, to make it profitable? Like how many people are you going to have to fire, like you said, and then how much more is it going to have to cost?
Or you could you subsidize UPS in some capacity and still save a
UPS and Amazon. Amazon's delivers more things to my house,
maybe,
than either Federal Express or UPS.
Yeah, because UPS has those big trucks and stuff, so they would have a whole different fleet thing because you don't want UPS big truck coming down and stopping at every mailbox.
Yeah,
and that wouldn't be very safe or effective. I don't know.
Well, the Amazon guy comes by and he goes from house to house laying stuff out in my neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. I've started seeing smaller vehicles, like I guess maybe I don't know if it's specialty vehicles or what, but it's not necessarily these large. You know, like kind of smaller, like vans, but more like the what do they call those? Like journey vans or whatever. Like the smaller. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've started seeing some of those more around in my area, at least, versus the large. You know, the big vans.
I haven't. I've seen some Federal Express come by, but they're still large vehicles.
I still get some. I get some of my Amazon through the USPS too. I don't know if you guys get any of that, but
yeah, a little bit. But you know, there's a guy with Amazon on the side of his truck, and it's not a big truck, but he's pushing stuff out. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I think we've come to a natural end here.
Yeah.
It's been
wonderful.
It's been fantastic, and it'll be a little bit lighter for a little bit longer next time we sit down.
Yeah.
Next week we might have to make an arrangement for a different night other than Wednesday, and I haven't even brought this to Travis's attention yet. We'll do that at another time. Got a local euchre game that I was going to invite you to on Wednesday night. So I don't know if that would affect your ability to sneak out of the house for 2 nights.
If I get euchre, she can. I get to make that decision.
Yeah,
the podcast. If
Only
she wants
podcast,
to, maybe but if I get to go to a euchre tournament, she's not shutting me down. Main reason why my wife refuses to learn how to play euchre.
Okay,
she plays every other game, card games, board games, whatever. I don't know if it's because I love the game so much or what, but she just refuses.
She just wants to. She doesn't want to give you the pleasure.
No, she seems to not want to. Just no. I'm not going to learn euchre anyway. Sorry.
Yeah, my wife has given me the same kind of hassle. She doesn't get euchre and doesn't want to get euchre. But we play cards everywhere we go. We'll play cards when we're out somewhere. So anyway, well, thanks everybody for watching. I am appreciating and enjoying the questions that come along to me. I am not a doctor. I don't play one on television. I do have a conversation with one.
He has a real one over here.
And so keep sending those questions. I'll pass them along to Dr. Roy, and we'll try to get you some good information back out. So love you all.
Right.
Thanks.
Hey, good night, everybody.
Take care.
Night.